Come on, man. You working or what? Okay, live. Good. Finally. What's the time? Got a minute. Oh, good. Okay, finally. That bloody took like several goes to get the live to go. It wasn't working. It's just doing the loading circle of doom. Anyway, I'll do this live and try to have the chat open at the same time, just in case. I don't think there'd be, well, if there's anybody on here for starters, it's blinking Tuesday, 3:45 in the afternoon. So people are likely still at work. So that might give me a chance if there's nobody on here. Not worrying about any questions. I can just run through what I can recall to finish off this request in regards to, looking at the wrong place, in regards to what was New Zealand and Australian SAS selection and cycle like for me. I've done the New Zealand part already, the selection and cycle. And then, yeah, I don't think I've done the lead up prior to, during, and or post selection for Australia. And then I'll probably do the cycle in a separate video. And then that'll round that out. Then I would have covered off on those requests that have come through from several people because they hadn't seen me do a personal reflection that way in regards to those topics. Anyway, so we're up to the Australian one. So I'm in Australia now in the ADF. I guess the lead up to the Australian selection is the trip to, or was pre-deployment training, and then the trip to East Timor. Probably just prior to that, spent about 2 weeks, I think it was. I don't think it would have been any more than 2 weeks, just in Singleton. I think I covered off on some of this when I have spoken about I think I did a Timor breakdown, or not a breakdown, but what Timor was like for me in a live stream as well. I'm pretty sure I did that live. So I won't delve into all of that stuff. People can go back and look to find that video, wherever that is. But yeah, went over. ADF was great. They didn't cause me to have to, or they didn't get me to go and do basic training in Kapuka or anything again. And they didn't get me to stay at Singleton for the whole of the IETs. So I don't know what stage they were at the IETs by the time I got there, which is their, I guess, New Zealand Infantry Corps training equivalent. Initial employment training, I think, is what the IETs part stands for. And yeah, went there, did a couple of weeks there with regards to what they needed me to do. And then they asked me, I was asked where I wanted to go. And so I did ask if I could go to 4 RAR Commando because I knew that they were going to Timor. And I was lucky enough and I got to go there. And then I was lucky whilst I was there, they asked where I wanted to go within 4 RAR. And I said, oh, if I could go to Recce Platoon, that would be good. But at the end of the day, I'll go wherever you tell me to go. So if they'd have sent me or put me in a rifle company, I would have gone to a rifle company. Because they asked, I gave an honest answer. And I was fortunate that I guess there was space at Recce Platoon, and then I was lucky enough to go there. So the build up to that was the Timor pre-deployment training and deployment to East Timor, which is good. Lots of stuff on there, lots of hot weather, lots of weight in the pack, and getting used to all that sort of stuff, which was good, but still not. It wasn't necessarily selection specific type. What do you call it? Demands in terms of prerequisites and physical testing and that sort of thing, although it was challenging and stuff at times. Some of the blinking hills and stuff that we're yomping up with all our gear to set up OPs and things like that, and then moving on other patrols. It was still, I think it was still a good development phase for me personally in terms of preparation, overall preparation for selection. So I'm just going to continue drinking this lemon and honey before it goes cold. I think people asked last night because I had a lemon and honey. Was it last night? Or whenever I did a live, I think it was last night. Yeah, it was last night. Bloody hell. No, not crook. I just like lemon and honey. Nice. At least it has a bit of a taste. Just the raw honey in the bucket from just having either plain water or just hot water. Where am I? yeah, so Timor trip's done. When we got back from Timor, back to Holsworthy, we pretty much, from memory, I'm pretty sure we pretty much just had time to ourselves to train. So we're back at the end, or whenever we were nearing the end of 2001, and then we just trained. Still turned up for work, but standard sort of stuff. Report in, go do PT, get cleaned up, go back, see whatever platoon commander, platoon sergeant wanted us to do at Recce Platoon, and within your teams, patrol commander, etc. Do whatever was needed to be done. But because, I think anyway, because our platoon commander, not only was my platoon commander doing selection, so we were on the same selection together. Shout out Pete Island. He's not serving in the unit anymore, but he was my platoon commander in Recce Platoon. Not only was he doing selection, which I didn't know, he was getting ready to do selection as well, but there was obviously Nick Caldwell, and there were several other guys from within Recce Platoon that I was lucky enough to be a part of, where we all ended up on the same selection, and we all completed it. We all passed, those of us that went there from Recce Platoon, and there were a number of others from 4RAR that went on that one, not necessarily from Recce Platoon, but from 4RAR Commando itself. I want to say from memory, I think there was 11 of us from 4RAR from 4RAR Commando at that time, and I think 10 of us. Pretty sure I think there's only one that didn't complete it, and that's because, from memory, he injured himself moving at night time. I think took a bad fall. I think he broke his wrist or his arm, a part of his arm, and couldn't continue with some of the tasks and activities that we needed to do. And it was still relatively, I think, probably would have been into the start of week 2, I want to say. So still fairly early, not even at the halfway stage at that point. So that was unfortunate for him. I don't know if he ever went back, but yeah, it was a pretty good, successful, in the sense of 10 out of the 11 from 4 went on selection and completed it. Can't remember exactly how. I know that there was a handful of 4RAR guys at the end that did complete it, but didn't pass per se, so they didn't get selected for the cycle. So anyway, we're just training. Did some training sessions with some of the guys. Like, I remember Nick and I, along with some of the other guys from Recce Platoon, went to a couple of places, did some pack marches. So that was good, out and about. But the vast majority of my training, and I think for the guys as well that were preparing, excuse me, at least from the 4RAR perspective, we all pretty much had an idea, I think, of what our strengths were and where we felt we needed to improve. And so we carried on and did our own thing most of the time. Like I said, apart from a few training sessions that were done collectively, those were pack marches that I remember. There was obviously some PT runs and stuff like that was done, but I think that was more so just on the basis of just showing up to work, reporting in, and then going off and then doing your patrol or platoon PT. And then the rest, yeah, I don't remember too much else like work-wise happening. I think I do remember getting a lot of time to train and then recover, eat whatever. Again, I was still eating whatever. People have always asked, like, what were you eating? Did your eating habits change? Were you more strict with things? Were you more disciplined or whatever? I don't think so in terms of eating. I still just remember eating whatever it was going. Go to the mess, eat whatever was there. If I was hungry and if I wanted dessert and if it looked nice, I'd eat it. Yeah, so that was that piece. So I can't remember when we got back from Timor in 2001, but obviously it was a 6-month deployment. We would have been back with still a few months before the end of the year and before selection would have been kicking off, which was at the end of that same year. So I want to say, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months worth of training, probably. Focused training towards preparing for the Australian selection, for me anyway. And then then it was time to go on selection. Oh, sorry, before that, barrier testing. So doing all that training preparation, then they had this thing called it was a 3-day barrier test. Actually, this is an important piece. So did the barrier testing. You have your 3.2s, 2.4s, pull-ups, all that sort of stuff, navigation, swim tests, etc., all that sort of stuff. And that ran over the 72-hour period. I remember on the navigation, at the end of the navigation, so and during it, I cramped up massively. Massive cramping. I didn't I didn't think anything of it because I'd never experienced anything like this before. So I'll try and paint a picture as well as I can. At the end of the 3.2, like and it was hot weather that day. So this is interesting on the back end of a reaction that I've done recently in regards to why did they have to die, soldiers on the UK SF selection. I've given my thoughts and stuff on that video. But coming back to this, like my uniform was just, not only was it drenched, but then, when you get the white crystallized pieces on your clothing, or when you're wearing a cap, baseball cap, and then you get that sweat and it's like all white and white salt crystals, whatever you want to call it. I didn't think anything of that. So my whole uniform, by the time it started drying out, was just white all down the sleeves, white up into the collar, all on my chest, down onto my trousers. It didn't change completely white, but you know what I mean, the white salt marks that you get, and you can clearly see it when people have got it. And I just didn't think at all to put salt, any extra salt or anything on my food or anything like that. Because I'd not been used to that. I'm not somebody that usually adds salt to my food either. I've probably only started doing that in the last few years, really, adding a little bit of extra pink salt or whatever to my food just for taste. Otherwise, I was never that person that added salt to my food after it had already been cooked, whether it was food from the mess or whether I've been out and eating somewhere. Actually, I don't even know if I've added any salt to my food when I have been out somewhere. I usually just, whatever salt and stuff has been added to the food when it's been cooked and prepared, typically that's always been enough for me, I think. And I think that's still the case. But obviously, because I wasn't aware of that as a young fella, I wasn't aware of, I'd heard about the terms electrolytes and salts and all that sort of stuff, but because I never took any of that stuff, like I wasn't taking electrolytes, I wasn't taking protein powders, I wasn't taking creatine, it wasn't in the equation or in my mind for me. So when I saw the salts and stuff on my uniform, the penny still didn't drop. So anyway, we carried on. Then we got into the navigation. When I was drinking water, I was just drinking water. When we had food, I just ate the food as it was. I didn't grab the salt sachets and then add extra salt or anything to my food to try to replace what I clearly must have lost. Because again, it didn't enter my head. Anyway, during the navigation, I started cramping up massively, like to the point where it was hard to move, like needing to stop and then trying to, when things spaz and go really hard and things just like tighten up. That's what was happening to me. But it was happening in my arms, which was strange to me, but I can only imagine maybe it's due to the pack and sort of the circulation maybe from the straps. I don't know. This is just me. This was me thinking in hindsight in terms of what that might have been. Maybe restricting blood flow, and then my arms started blinking, cramping up and spaz. I was like, bloody hell, that's weird. I've never had a cramp in my arm before. And I suppose, when you're holding your weapon in two hands and your arms are just sort of locked in that position, holding your weapon, soldiers will understand what I'm talking about in regards to that. I guess that just sort of maybe added to it. But obviously, my legs started cramping up too. My calves, in the back of my hamstrings, my quads, just really, really painful. Anyway, I can't recall exactly how many checkpoints I must have done by that point or during the navigation. But what I would say is, thank goodness, I must have done just enough. I must have done just enough, and I'll share the reason why shortly. And that's because I got spoken to by the directing staff. But anyway, I was cramping up, moving. I don't know at what stage or how many checkpoints I'd already done. Moving to, obviously get your good reference and all that sort of stuff. You go away, work it out, come back, report it, and then you get told to go after you've done the report the way you're supposed to. Heading off, and just, man, every step just felt super painful for me. But I didn't know if I was all right, kilometers, checkpoints wise. And so I kept trying to keep pushing, keep moving. Needed to stop way more frequently than I would have if I wasn't feeling those cramps. But had no choice. I couldn't physically move. They cramped up, locked up that tight that my leg extended out straight, and it was spasming away. And I tried to grab onto a tree a couple of times, fell back a couple of times, and you're trying to relax, trying to relax your leg, but you can't because it's just tensed up so tight. Anyway, that happened multiple times. Got to the end, to the what I assume must have been the last checkpoint. Don't know where I finished in terms of whether I was in the middle or whether I was last. I definitely wasn't first, but completed it anyway. What I remember is after that, just sitting down, it was just keeping to ourselves, sitting down by our packs, and I was just still like rubbing my legs, trying to move the blood around, whatever it is that I could do. You weren't given anything to eat. We could drink water, so we had plenty of water and stuff on us. And then I got called up to go over and see. I'm pretty sure, I want to say it was Porky Hibbert, Captain Hibbert at the time, and another directing staff member. But I think it was him on the barrier testing there in Sydney that we did in Holsworthy. Went over. So shout out Porky Hibbert. I don't think he's serving there anymore. And I only know him as Porky Hibbert too. I don't actually know what his proper name is. He was always just Sir anyway, during selection and cycle. But yeah, he was a good guy. Anyway, got called over, spoken to, and what I remember was him asking me what happened, like what happened on the navigation. I think what he meant, because I don't know, we weren't told how many checkpoints we had to complete. We weren't told what the distance was that we had to cover or whatever, or by what time we needed to be back. We're just given the next grid reference, as far as I can remember anyway. And then he said, what happened? And I wasn't too sure what he meant. And then he elaborated a bit more. He goes, why did it take you so long? And I guess the expectation must have been, I'm making an assumption here, but I guess the expectation from him and or maybe some of the other directing staff that were there must have been that I should have finished that a lot sooner than what I did. And I'll be honest, I would have had I not been feeling what I was feeling and just blanking. I must have looked like a shambles moving through that bush, I reckon. Seriously, if there were cameras or drones out there and recording during that time or that period, thinking I would have looked like a real mess, I reckon. But that was why with the cramping. And I said, I just explained. I said, staff, sir, I think we had to say sir, not staff. I just had really bad cramps. Now, I think probably the only thing that was maybe still going for me was that I still had all the salt crystallization stuff on my uniform. Like, we had to change the uniform, yep. But then the next day, so over those 3 days, change uniform, got a uniform on. You're not just doing that task. You're getting hammered with a little bit of other extra, let's call it extra activities, extracurricular activities before you go on and do that stuff. So like a little mini 3-day selection before you go on to the actual selection. And so yeah, I still had all this salt and stuff on me. I said, so my arms, my legs, everything was cramping up. I had to stop multiple times out in the bush to try to relax and try to let that subside so that I could then get up and move. And so I was moving as quick as I could. And that's what happened. And I actually thought I was going to be told, well, you haven't done enough, not good enough. You'll have to come back and do it again. I thought that's what was about to happen. So I thought, well, I'll let him know. And even then at that stage, I was like, that's all good. I'm more the smarter for it now. I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to probably have a little bit of salt in my water bottles and all that sort of stuff. My mind was already thinking ahead prior to getting caught up to go speak with Captain Hibbert at that time. So I was sitting down at my pack, like I said, trying to massage my legs, thinking about what the hell's going on, having a light bulb moment, going, bloody hell, yeah, I haven't replaced any salts, looking at my uniform, connecting the dots and going, all right, cool. If I haven't done enough this time, I'll go away, continue my training, make sure I'm blinking smarter next time with regards to adding salt to my food. And I'll be back again. Anyway, I didn't say any of that out loud. I just answered the question that I'd been asked, but that's what was going through my head. And then what did he say? He said words to the effect of, well, you better make sure you do better on selection. And at that time, I was still pretty shocked, fairly shocked. Those probably aren't the exact words, but that's essentially what he meant by the words that he did say. Whereas I was expecting to be told, yeah, not good enough, like I said, and you'll have to come back and go through this process again. So anyway, words to that effect of, well, you're going to have to be a lot better on selection. And then there's must have been a couple of other things said, and then I just got told to bugger off, go back in the rank and sit down with my gear, which I did. So sent off. When I went back and sat down, I was thinking, oh, okay, so maybe I have done enough. So that's why I say I think I may have just scraped in, may have just done enough in terms of distance wise, kilometers wise, checkpoints wise. Again, like I said, nobody told us how far we had to cover, how much time we had, etc. All we knew was move as quick as we could, cover as many checkpoints as we can. So that's what I did. So I figured, okay, I must have done enough. Then, yeah, sure enough, we got notified, those of us that were eligible to go into the SASR selection, got called out, and then the other guys, and I was lucky enough to be one of those names, and then other guys for, I guess, the commando selection got called out. Whether or not that's what they applied for or not, I'm not sure. I think at that time, if directing staff felt that somebody who might have put in it, or who may have had a desire to want to go to over west to SASR, I think at that time, if the directing staff didn't feel that candidates had done enough during the barrier testing to warrant them earning a spot on the SASR selection, that they then potentially, I want to say, don't quote me on it though, but then potentially got shifted to the commando selection. Said, well, don't think you're quite ready yet to come over west, but you can go do the commando selection. And then otherwise, it was guys that just failed, guys that either quit, failed, or didn't complete, things within the time frame, and they were just removed. This is just lukewarm now. Anyway, so that was done and dusted, and I was stoked. Barrier testing was done, and then there would have been, geez, I want to say probably it felt like several weeks before actual selection proper started. So I wasn't too, I didn't feel wasted or blank and unrecovered or anything like that by the time the actual selection came around. A bit tired, but I was mostly just, once the cramps were gone, once I managed to get whatever electrolytes and stuff back into my body and system, my body felt good. Muscles wise felt good, mentally felt good. And it was just a really good learning moment for me on that barrier testing, which played out really well. So barrier testing, all those, I guess, boxes are ticked, those things are done. Managed to earn a spot to go on to the selection proper over in WA. And then several weeks go by. Again, that would have just been a combination of a little bit of recovery, but then more maintenance in terms of PT wise, the running, pack stuff. And like I said, it didn't take too long for the cramping and stuff after the barrier testing was done. I don't remember it taking that long anyway, for that to sort of subside and go away. I definitely added more salts and stuff, and I did go get some electrolytes and things like that from the shop. Might have been from the chemist actually, to help with that process. So yeah, several weeks go by, head over west, much smarter than what I was in the barrier testing, much more cognizant and mindful of, okay, it's pretty hot here in Australia, and I'm going to sweat a heck of a lot more. I used to sweat, and I still sweat a lot here in NZ, but I used to sweat a heck of a lot even in the cold weather here in NZ. That's always interested me, eh? I've had a number of friends, very fit, and guys that haven't been that fit. So a combination, some guys that are super fit and not that fit, who both don't sweat, and then I've seen guys that are super fit and unfit who blink and are drenched. I've never really considered myself to be, well, there's been times where I've felt like I've been super fit for where I used to be. But in comparison to other people who I would look at and view and say they are super fit, excuse me, I would have been very much middle of the road. So, but I've always been bloody drenched in sweat with regards to training, especially running. When I run, I'm definitely usually soaked and with sweat dripping off. So I don't know what that is. Some people must have, I don't know, maybe my cooling system must just be very efficient, maybe. And maybe some guys are just lucky that they don't end up blinking, looking like they've just come out of a swimming pool or something. So anyway, where was I? with that knowledge and information, I knew that I was going to be making sure that I add salt and stuff to my meals, to my food, extra salt whenever that opportunity presented itself. So we fly over to Perth. I remember getting into the Perth airport, waiting at the baggage claim, bunch of other people, and with some of the boys as well, grabbing our gear, our packs. I'm pretty sure it was Salty, Shane Saltmarsh, shout out Salty, who was the PTI that picked us up, a badged, you say beret qualified PTI. I don't know if I think he might have been 2 or 3 squadron before he maybe changed over to become a PTI. He blink and smashed the that Gladiators show that used to be on TV. You know, the blinking I don't know if it was the American Gladiators show that he was on or the UK one of those, or maybe it was Australian. So, but he's on the Gladiator show anyway, and I think he won the competition or whatever that he was on. It's a blinking unit of a man, fit, fast, strong. Like, just yeah, that's how I would describe him: fit, fast, and strong. Salty. And then yeah, he was there along with obviously other staff members and the driver. Grabbed all our gear, got onto a bus, and I remember the bus ride was a fairly decent bus ride from the Perth airport to Campbell Barracks. But I just remember looking out the window thinking, man, this place is flat as. I was like just flat. You know, there was no, I don't recall seeing any greenery. I was used to seeing greenery and hills, and I think I do remember being on the highways and the roads and just saying, far out, these roads are wide. So there were all these little simple things, like my mind was cast back to my time in NZ and what the roads and stuff are like here, which really hasn't changed, in my opinion. Christchurch probably has changed quite a lot, but understandable after the earthquakes and stuff. But yeah, in the other parts, even though I was in Sydney, like I wasn't the sort of person, I never really got out on the town or anything much in Sydney. I was pretty much just a barrack body, do my training, make sure my gear's ready to go, and yeah, go to the gym, go to the mess, back to my room. That was pretty much my life. And then yes, I was taking that stuff in. Started to, I can't say I really noticed the heat or anything. People were talking about the heat, like, oh, got to watch out for the heat over in WA, blah, blah, blah. And because I remember talking with some of the guys about the experience that I had with all my cramping, and even some of the guys noticed all the salt crystallized on my uniform and stuff. So yeah, those were some funny conversations. But anyway, all of that stuff was in my mind to get there. Where did we drive? I think we drove through the back gates. Like there's the main camp gate, but we drove through another gate further up the road, which sort of goes past where the Rangers are. And I think it might have been similar to what I saw when I did the reaction to the Search for Warriors documentary. I think we probably came in that same gate. And then we were down to the indoor 270, I want to say. Same range where they got told to strip off on the documentary that you see on the interwebs. And yeah, similar sort of thing. We walked in there with our gear, with our base kit bag or rear echelon bag and your pack and everything else. I don't know if we had been issued weapons by then, but we may have been. Gear down, stand behind your gear at ease, get some briefings, told to strip off, and then yeah, you're into it. Stripped all our gear off, laid our gear. Oh, actually, I think we laid out all our gear. I think there was the kit inspection first, and then we stripped off. Or maybe we stripped off and then laid out all our gear. One of those. We all ended up blinking butt naked anyway, or the candidates, with all our gear laid out. Females and males come through. So this is all different to me. So I had no idea how the Australian selection would run or how it would go. So that's probably worth mentioning as well. Again, I didn't know exactly how the New Zealand one would go, but like I've shared in other videos, I had a pretty decent understanding of the sort of order, how things would flow. Whereas for the 21 days or the 3-week selection in Australia, I had no idea. My landmarks were 3.2. Make sure I do that. So I spent a lot of time training for the 3.2. You you think I would have done better than 15 minutes 55 seconds if I had put in that much training. Well, I felt like I had put in a heck of a lot of training on that. Clearly, I probably could have done with a few more runs. But I scraped in with 5 seconds to spare. And then what else was there? Oh, and then just pack. So for me, I was comfortable and confident with my swimming. Not that I was a great or a fast swimmer, but I was comfortable, confident with it. So yeah, I wasn't I wasn't concerned about any of the swimming or anything like that. Navigation by that stage, I was definitely I was pretty confident with my navigation, having come from, and that was more so to do with, which I didn't talk about when I did the NZ cycle, but that was more so to do after the patrol procedures for me, for the most part. Actually, combat survival and then patrol procedures in NZ for me. Like that's where things just really started to click for me a lot more when it came to navigation. So I felt really comfortable with map to ground. I was really comfortable with the basics, like doing the doing my bearings and stuff and getting a grid reference and then working out point A to point B, working out whether it's grandma's socks or my great aunts, whether I subtract or add the magnetic variation, etc. How to do grid back bearings. To be fair, my resections actually got a bit better too, which was good. So I was able to reduce my grid squares of error to a triangle of error. So that was nice as well, but I definitely felt a lot more confident. And then I think, in addition to that, when I was sent back to battalion from Auckland, I think, as I mentioned, I was had the privilege of being put in charge of some new core trainees that came in, and so yeah, a lot of things for me just sort of stepped up in terms of what I felt I needed to do to try to be a good example and as good a leader as I could for the new recruits, or not recruits, new core trainees that had just arrived into battalion. Um, whether or not I was any good is would be for them to answer, not for me. And then, yeah, so all of that stuff combined is what helped me and gave me the confidence with the navigation. So the only thing I needed to remember is that I was on the west coast, so grandma's socks, so or grid to mag, you subtract. When you're in WA, you don't subtract the magnetic variation, you add it. Everything needed to be the reverse. So I was probably, to make sure that I wasn't being too overly confident with my nav when I got over to Perth, I did slow that down a little bit more when I was at the checkpoints and then being given grid references and stuff when we got into those navigational phases. Yeah. That's quite a good temperature too. Not yeah, say lukewarm, I reckon. So yeah, I did slow things down. My great aunt, grandma's socks, making sure that I didn't do what I would typically do, excuse me, when it came to subtracting or adding the magnetic variation when given the grid references and then working out my bearings to get from point A to point B. And then making sure that I knew what the magnetic variation was for the relevant maps that we were using or that we were issued with. So all of that came in very handy. So 3.2, there's going to be a whole bunch of navigation, and that there was this thing called lucky dip. And lucky dip, we call that unlucky dip. But those were my reference points for the Australian selection. Didn't know anything else. So being told to strip down, like naked amongst everybody else, and then females coming through with male staff and that as well, and then inspections being done, and you're just standing there with your blinking junk hanging out. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is different. So they go through, do that. I won't be able to remember day by day. Heck, no, not at all. Pack our gear back up. We probably got issued. Actually, I don't know if we got issued weapons then. We might have got issued weapons when we got up to Bindoon. So from there, what I recall is us going back onto a bus, I want to say, traveling north towards Bonnie Doon. And then at some point, the vehicle stopped. We all got told to get off, grab our packs, grab our rear echelon bag, and then just follow the directing staff. And then we started walking along these pea gravel dirt road tracks out in the bush, out in Whoop Whoop, which was the Bindoon training area, from what I understand. And so probably, I want to say, I think it's maybe 7 or 8 kilometers, the walk in. This was at night time by then. So by the time we got there, it was pretty dark. Directing staff and there was still a bit of ambient light, but there were directing staff, there were safety vehicles and all that sort of stuff traveling. Directing staff had headlamps on, so you had directing staff along. obviously directing staff at front and directing staff at the back, and you just shut your mouth and have your gear and move. Moving at a fairly quick pace, from what I recall, we're told to keep up with the directing staff, who was just in uniform. But at least they didn't run. They weren't running. They were just walking, brisk walk, with no kit on, just their uniform and boots, obviously, with a headlamp. So it was up to the rest of us to and try to keep up. And yeah, several kilometers later, we then got to the area where the barracks and stuff were, or the makeshift accommodation would be. What happened from there? I think we got probably some punishments, maybe. I don't think it was too much at that stage, and then allocated where we needed to go to in our rooms and accommodation and that sort of thing, which like these bunk bed system things that they had. And then yeah, all I really remember after that sort of first initial part, getting to the training area and into the rooms, is just real vivid snippets of other various things or nefarious things that took place during those first, I want to say that first week, or that first phase, I would call it. Lots of PT, what they call it, retraining, I think they referred to it as. That was the first time I'd heard that term, actually. It was never called retraining when I was going through selection, but I think that's what the term that I heard used on the Search for Warriors. It was just getting beasted with PT. That's all I referred to it as. Got given songs, Lily Marlene and Blank, and the Australian national anthem, obviously. What else? There was one or two other songs that were given and told that we had to sing, or learn and be able to sing at the drop of a hat. Clearly, I wasn't able to sing them at the drop of a hat. I don't even remember what the bloody songs were, but I do remember the Australian national anthem, and yes, both verses. So we had that to do. Like I said, lots of PT, all different times of the day, early hours in the morning. There's one part that I remember was salty. We're in the barracks, so we had finished whatever it was that we were doing for the day, PT, lessons, exercises, tasks to do, etc. So that's some of the stuff that was very different to the New Zealand one. There was actually some lessons. We got some foreign weapons lessons on the AK-47. I think, what else was there? There might have even been an SLR, I want to say. Pistol, but I think the pistol may have been a Browning pistol. Yeah, those are the ones that sort of stand out in my mind. So we were getting some instructions on that stuff. We were getting instructions on building sandbag, blink, and defensive positions, digging in to level 3, also from shell scrapes to fighting bays with shell scrapes, to digging down to sleeping bays, to OHP or overhead protection, etc. What else was there? Excuse me. There was some navigational theory stuff that we had while we were out there in the classroom. So there was a combination of some classroom stuff and actual lessons that we were getting or were receiving, and this was during the selection. And then having to apply some of that stuff, or pass whatever said test was there. Oh no, that's just somebody outside. So again, that was very different to the NZ one. And then beasted with PT, and then doing all those bits and pieces. But anyway, coming back to the bunk bed one, we had been told beforehand that directing staff comes in, it's standard sort of stuff. Officer, directing staff, instructor, whatever, no different to basic training. They come into your room, you blink and yell room, get out of bed or stop what you're doing, stand to attention beside your bed. And I remember we had a long day, got sent back to the room, must have been about maybe 1 o'clock, I want to say around about 1 o'clock in the morning. It was dark anyway, it was early hours in the morning. And then we're back in our sort of barrack block accommodation. This is all still phase 1 stuff. And this might have only been sort of day 3, day 4. It wouldn't have been very far into it. And then Salty comes along. So the room's pitch black. I remember being on the top bunk. Can't remember who was on the bottom bunk. And I think we might have been in maybe 4 or 6 man rooms. Anyway, the light gets turned on and he walks right into the room and he's standing there looking at us. And I remember just waking up, like eyes like, it's like, oh, that bloody light. They were super bright where they were. And then I'm looking and I just see him standing there and I'm thinking to myself, You all right, mate? I didn't say that. But I just, all of the instruction that we had been given, the standard, even from basic training in NZ, which they would have been taught in Australia as well, in Kapuka, an instructor walks into your room, you yell in room and you get out of your bed or you stop what you're doing and you stand to attention and blink and wait to get instructions or get yelled at or get punishments or whatever. I didn't do any of that. I laid there, blinking just like, this is bloody bright, hadn't started putting my hand up, looked at him, didn't say anything. I don't know if anybody else in the room was looking at him. I assume they must have been woken up by the lights and that as well. And I'm staring at him. He just stands there, looks around, looks at me, like makes direct eye contact with me, and then I'm still just working out like, what's he doing? What's he waiting for? And then he just walks out of the room, leaves the light on, walks out of the room, and I'm thinking, oh, that's weird. No, I put my hand back down, and then I look to go back to sleep. And then next minute, I hear these directing staff, "Get that truck out of your bed!" And I was like, "Holy heck!" So the SHIT, the bed, and blink, and I sprung out of bed. I know the other guys did too. They went on to say a whole bunch of other expletives for our benefit and or because of our lack of response to the instruction that we would have been given earlier. All I remember is just launching myself out of bed and then standing to attention, and then we got told to hurry up and get dressed. I think we just got dressed into the normal uniform. We didn't have to have our packs, I don't think, at that time. But I think it was maybe with webbing and weapon. So we always had to have webbing and weapon in that anyway. We get outside and form up. Got taken for a little bit of a no, we didn't even get taken for a run. So that was our warm up, getting Blinken yelled at, get the truck out of your bed, blah blah blah, if this, if that. We got up, got outside, standing in three ranks, and then this Blinken push up bloody marathon happened, and Salty was just blasting us. I think I've spoken about this vividly in other parts. First set of 50 wasn't too bad. Second set, I'm like, I'm feeling this now. Actually, probably I would have been behind the cadence that he was giving, but still got through all the reps. By the third set and fourth set, then probably I want to say fifth set, I was blinking cooked. My arms, my chest, I just couldn't keep up with the pace. And I remember one of the directing staff, I want to say, I think it was Red. I ended up in the same squadron with him. He was free faller as a corporal. He might have been a lance corporal at that time or full corporal, but Red for short. Redding was his surname. Good fella. But I'm pretty sure, I want to say it was him that was like down next to me, asking me, calling me by my candidate number, just not yelling at me. Did you prepare for this? Like, you need to keep up, candidate, blah, blah, blah. Just like that type of tone and those sorts of words. He goes, you're falling further and further behind, candidate. I think he might have gone on to say, other things or suggestions to you might as well quit, sort of thing. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, one, I was getting annoyed with more so with myself, with the fact that like all the lactic acid just started burning up and I just couldn't keep the cadence. I couldn't keep pace with the cadence that Salty was setting. So, and it was, the instruction was simple. We count out and keep up with him. So when he goes down and then up, we're 1, 2, 3. And so that was it. We're counting and he's going at the same pace, it felt like, for all 4 or 5 sets of 50. And so it doesn't sound like much. It's like, oh, yeah, 200, 250 push-ups. That's not much. But when there's bugger or break in between, so we literally did the 50, stood up. We must have stood for maybe, I want to say, felt like maybe 15, 20 seconds. It was probably 30 or maybe 40 seconds, but it felt like went by like like that. And then we had to drop back down and then go again. And it was the same cadence every time. Another 50, stand back up, stood up. We're thinking, okay, cool. We're probably going to be finished now. Now back down, go in again, back up. Okay, that must have been it. Back down. And obviously a whole bunch of us started to be unable to maintain the cadence that he was setting. And he did every single rep. There would have been guys there that would have kept up, I would imagine, but I definitely wasn't one of them. I remember looking up, trying to keep up, blinking. You know how you get to that stage when you start trying to come up and then you start trying to banana and your blinking backside stays down on the ground and you look real hideous and ugly. Yeah, I would have been one of those fellas. But getting spoken to by the directing staff as well whilst they're moving around. So I don't think Red stayed by me the whole time, but obviously did enough to come and have a word in my ear. So not only was I angry with myself, but then I started getting annoyed with him as well. And I was just thinking to myself, yeah, whatever. That was what I thought in my head. I was just, I said, whatever. You're not making me quit. There's no way I'm leaving. I don't care if I'm coming dead last. Like if I have to stay here and be the last person here to get these push-ups done before I'm allowed to get up and go do the next part, then I'm going to stay here. You're going to have to remove me off the course. I'm not giving you any satisfaction of me leaving this course. You're going to have to remove me. And the fact was, at that stage, like I'd already destroyed and gotten rid of my withdrawal at own request form anyway, or paperwork that they gave us. So as soon as the staff weren't looking and we did have times to ourselves, I was like, I took that out of my top pocket, ripped that thing up and threw it in the bin. So I couldn't withdraw if I wanted to. Well, that's not true. You could withdraw even if you didn't have it. But for me, psychologically and physically, that was me giving myself no other option but to just stay in it. Anyway, that miserable experience ended eventually, which was good. And then pretty sure like we went back to bed after that. It was staying up for the rest of that day or that morning. Sun comes up, you carry on with other stuff during the day, doing tasks and activities. Again, lots of PT broken up and thrown in during that day. We did get fed, so we were getting meals during this first phase as well, and even into the second phase. So we were getting meals. I want to say it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they were proper meals. So it wasn't like a teaspoon of baked beans, one egg, a slice of bread, and a small sausage. We were getting like proper meals that we could have to eat, and so that was the other part during this first phase of selection. I was thinking, is this a trick? Like for me, that's just how my brain was working. Is this because my only reference point was my time on the New Zealand selection, so we didn't get any of that, and so I was questioning everything in my own head and just suspect of everything. I was looking around, I'm looking at the directing staff, I'm trying to get a read of are they gonna is this a fail if I take this food? Then I'm looking at the other candidates because I wasn't first in the line. You know, you just get there when you get there, you line up and then you start cycling through. And I've seen other candidates, they just put normal amount of food on their plate, they go and sit down, they're eating their food. And I'm thinking, are they all going to get kicked off? Are they all going to get like told, no, you're not supposed to, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, they didn't. So when I come time for me to go up to the mess and to the press, like I just put normal amount of food of what I felt I needed to eat. And then I think I've spoken about this before. I didn't load it up too much. I had, well, what do you call it? I just maintained some reserve. I probably could have eaten more, or not probably. I know I could have eaten more. But I was concerned that they were just going to flog us with PT straight after and that I would end up throwing it up. So because I wanted to try to, I saw the food and I was adding salt to my food and stuff at that stage too. Because I wanted to keep the food down and I felt, okay, if they're giving us food, there's going to be nutrients in this food that my body's going to want to hold on to. I don't want to stuff myself too fat and too full because I'm blinking, not sure if this is going to be the last feed I'm going to get. And then they go and flog us as soon as we're finished eating, and they take us for a ridiculous run and make us do a whole bunch of thinking exercises for hours on end. So I was reserved with the amount of food that I would put on my plate, but it was a good feed. I felt like it was a good feed anyway, but I could have easily eaten more. So I want to say when I finished my meals, adding salt on. So I was adding every chance I got, I added a little bit of salt to whatever meal I was having, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And I want to say that I left after each meal still feeling not starving, but probably peckish would be the way I would describe it for me personally. Like it's like I could either I could have another bite of something or a few bites of a few different things. You know what I mean? But for me, that was good. So in terms of me worrying about if we were going to get smashed and then I'd end up throwing up the food that I just tried to eat and use or dare I say, use as reserve for energy on the course. So I don't recall us ever getting a feed and then directly being taken outside and being flogged. I don't recall that happening at all on my selection in Australia. Um, but we did get flogged later on with PT and stuff. But by then, food is sort of settled. I still wasn't prepared to take the risk, even after the first few days of that and that sort of pattern happening, because I was always paranoid. That's the word I was looking for. Because I was always paranoid that, yeah, they're just trying to soften me up or soften us up to the point where, okay, this is the routine. Yeah, they don't flog us straight away after eating, so I'm going to eat more. So I just thought, oh well, it's been working for now and what I've been doing, and I've been okay. So I'll just stick with that same pattern and routine for me. Anyway, so that was my memories of sort of that first phase and the food and stuff that we're eating. And it was nice food too. Bread buns are available, like proper normal mess food. And there wasn't anybody behind the mess press restricted us in terms of what we could put on our plates or not put on our plate. Obviously, we weren't. I don't recall anybody going up for seconds. I didn't see that happen. I think it was a one and done deal. You go up, put food on your plate, whatever food you put on your plate. And when you leave the press to go to your table, then that's it. Grab yourself a couple of pieces of bread if you want to on the way past. Go sit down, eat your food, and then take the dishes up. You're not grabbing any more food after that. So yeah, that's my recollection on those, on that part. Phase two, I think that's where we started getting more into the navigation stuff. So probably nearing the end of week one, then into week two, the navigation started to kick in a lot more. So we had the open country nav, excuse me, done in that area in Bindoon. I don't think I can't say that ours was in the Stirling Ranges. If it was, I don't remember people saying that we were in the Stirling Ranges. I'm pretty sure that phase of navigation for there was in Bindoon, like just the area. When you watch the search, if you've watched the Search for Warriors documentary, I don't remember that phase of. I don't remember covering, or those peaks didn't look like the peaks that I remember climbing and getting to on the checkpoints during my selection there at that time. So I want to say we did one phase of the navigation in Bindoon, or a series of phases. There's felt like quite a bit of navigation there. We had some other tasks and scenarios that were thrown at us last minute, which we didn't know about. So I think that was all part of the assessment selection process, obviously, to see how we would respond and react to those sort of different environments and different scenarios and challenges that they presented us with, either when we got to a checkpoint, before we got our grid reference, before we could then move on, or as part of just a random stand that they threw at us. So those were good. Again, I was like, man, this is different. Food is different. Being stripped, blinking butt naked with everybody on the first aspect is different. All of it was a whole new experience for me. But I was impressed with how organized it was. To me, again, it was like I've shared in the New Zealand one. The NZ Australia, the selection cycles, for me, like highly professional, really well run, like the best courses I've ever done. I thought, man, this is awesome. So even though there was a lot of paranoia on my part and a lot of uncertainty, like I didn't know what was happening, and I started to lose track of the days as well. They just all sort of started blurring into one. But lucky dip, you definitely knew you were on the downhill stretch, and I'll talk about that when I get to it. So yeah, phase two, all the navigation stuff, and then that's around about the time at some point before when we finished that phase and we were getting ready to move to, I want to say we traveled to Collie. So we headed south from there, which was a bit of a drive. And I think we were on buses for that part of the journey to get down there to do the close country navigation stuff, and quite a few hills and stuff at least in the terrain where we went to for there as well. And just prior to that was when I got given the instruction from Rotherham. That's his name. Is that his name, Rotherham? I'm pretty sure it's Rotherham. Some of the boys nicknamed him Rotten Chops. He was one of the directing staff. I'm pretty sure he's a sergeant too. And so he's the guy that came up to me, asked me if I knew the Australian national anthem, And so shout out Rotherham, or Rotten Chops, some of the fellas called him. Made me crack up when I heard that nickname. I didn't hear that nickname for him until we were on cycle. We weren't, nobody was saying that, not that I was aware of, not on selection anyway. And then he asked me if I knew that, and I said, not yet, staff. And he goes, all right, well, you make sure you learn this by the time we get to where we're going. And when we get there, you will need to stand up by yourself and sing the Australian national anthem, both verses by yourself. If you get anything wrong, then everybody in this cohort on the course is going to get punished. I was like, what the hell? But yeah, so that was me on the trip down. Instead of getting some rest and some sleep, I'm sure I would have got a little bit of rest because it was quite a drive. But I was paranoid about Lincoln learning the Australian national anthem. So I had one of the boys as well from Ricky Platoon at 4RAR who stayed up and helped me a bit with that as well. I won't mention his name. I'll use his nickname Zulu. But I'm not sure if actually I think he's not serving anymore, but haven't caught up with him for ages, so I won't drop his name here. But good, really good man. I think he may be not long just left, possibly, or he's either not long just left or he's not long before he gets out. So play it safe and just run with Zulu. I don't know if that's still the nickname that he goes by these days or that he had, but I would assume it's people will know who I'm talking about anyway. So he helped me, stayed up with me as I worked through that, and then we got there. I remember it was dark. My name got called out. Everybody was formed up, and then I got called out to the front. Went out to the front, standing there with my gear and my weapon, and then proceeded to sing the Australian national anthem after the instruction I was given by the sergeant, by the directing staff. Did that. Did it with no mistakes, which was good. So nobody got punished. But well, I think I did it with no mistakes, and nobody did get punished. But the sergeant did come up to me later, and he says to me, I think I've shared this before. He goes, "You know, you made a mistake, eh?" And I was like, "No, staff, no, I don't." And he goes, "Well, you did." And then he walked off. And I was thinking to myself, "No, I didn't." Thinking if I had made a mistake, you would have punished everybody, and would have made an extra big deal out of it. That's what I thought anyway. But you know what? In hindsight, on reflection, maybe I did, and maybe he thought, maybe he thought I won't punish all the guys. Maybe he thought I did. Maybe he thought my close enough was good enough if I did make a mistake in it. And by mistake, he meant if I got one word wrong in terms of what we'd been presented with for the Australian national anthem in both those verses, then everybody was going to get a punishment. He didn't say what it was, but if a directing staff says that everybody's going to get a punishment, not only do you worry about what that punishment is, but you also worry about how long is that punishment going to go for. So those were my two biggest fears for my cohort on that selection. So anyway, I survived that. We survived that, and then we're into lots of close country navigation. And during that close country navigation, I remember I stopped to have a sip and a drink. I felt like I was doing all right. Not that anybody really knows, but I felt like I was doing all right because you did bump into other people during the close country nav, even though it was quite spread out. Some of those checkpoints, some of the distances between them were like well over 20 kilometers. Others were, I'd say the average may have been around 7 to 8 kilometers is what I want to say. But there was some blank, and I recall one of the checkpoints must have been like 25, 27 clicks from where I was to where I needed to get to. That takes a bloody long time. And it felt like I personally felt like I was moving better than I felt like I was moving on the New Zealand selection, even though the distances and it felt like the number of checkpoints was more. And I think that's accurate because of the number of days during the allocated to the navigation part. So again, I think the preparation and my experiences on NZ and on the NZ selection set me up really well to develop a lot of confidence with my navigation before being on the Australian one. Dare I say, if I had gone on the Australian one the way I was before I went on the New Zealand one, I probably would have got lost. I probably, well, maybe not lost, because I was okay with bearing and paces, and I was blinking, yeah, a mutton for bloody sticking to the bearings and stuff for the most part anyway, and trusting that. Because that was what we'd been taught: trust your bearing, trust your paces, blah blah blah. That was repeated over and over again as a blinking grunt in the rifle company and battalion. But I may have still failed in Australia, just because of, if I had have marched straight on my bearing at the experience level and age that I was at for NZ in Australia, I probably would have blinked and gassed out, I reckon. It would have, yeah, been extremely challenging with the river crossings, with the wet clothing, and then the features that you're going up and down to get to those checkpoints, the distances, the consecutive days, etc. The need to push, when you don't know how much time you've got, and you don't actually know if you're doing well or not, other than, like I said, well, which I didn't even get into, but where you do cross paths with some of the other candidates, and you do have a bit of a chat. And like for me, I'll just be honest in terms of how many checkpoints I'd done. I remember crossing paths with a couple of guys, and one of the first things you ask each other, like you're having a look around, make sure there's no directing staff in the vicinity, where you're out in the middle of the sticks. And then you're having a chat with them again. Oh, like how many checkpoints have you done? And I remember one time, I think I was on around about my 5th checkpoint, heading to my 6th. And a couple of guys that I spoke to, they're like, oh, just I'm heading to my 2nd. Or one guy he had done 2 and he was heading to his 3rd. And I was thinking, oh, okay. And then they're like, oh, how many have you done? And I said, oh, I've done 5. I'm just heading to my 6th one now. And they're like, have you? And then there were other guys that I bumped into. I think I might have been on maybe 3 or 4. And so the tide was turned on me. Bumped into a couple of other guys. I was like, bro, how many checkpoints are you on? And I think they were on 6 heading to 7. And I was only on my 3rd or 4th, or on my 3rd heading to my 4th. And so all of that, the other candidates, like unknowingly, are adding to probably the other candidates, their peers' anxiety on the selection course itself. Or we probably did it to ourselves by asking each other, how many checkpoints have you done? Or, but that was what I did. That was what other candidates did, just to try to get a gauge of, okay, and then trying to find out or figure out, so which checkpoints have you done? Like, and then when you get a little bit of an idea, you start to see, oh, okay, there's some that are a bit shorter, some that are longer, some that are sort of middle distance type stuff, and you're like, okay, yeah, okay, I can see why they're potentially so far ahead. But also, their route selection was probably pretty good as well. So by that stage, yeah, I think my route selection is probably what helped me a lot with regards to that phase of selection, and getting enough, dare I say, checkpoints completed as part of that secondary navigation phase for the Australian selection. So, excuse me. Yeah, got to the last checkpoint. I remember vividly. There's a group of us sitting together. Some guys, I think from memory, at the end of that phase, because that was pretty much the end of phase 2, before lucky dip or unlucky dip, whereby I think after that phase, some people did get removed because of the lack of distance covered and the number of checkpoints that they hadn't met or completed. So again, we weren't told how many that was. There was just, all of a sudden, some people that were candidates on the course were no longer on the course, and so you see your numbers start to shrink down. I think, probably one thing I didn't mention, I think the barrier testing, there might have been close to 300 people at barrier testing. And by the time we started the Australian selection, I want to say we started with, bloody hell, what is that? Oh, must just be somebody cutting some stuff, or weed whacker or something. Geez, how many did we start with? Yeah, I don't know how many people we started with. There's a large number anyway. All you need to do is have a look at the the Search for Warriors documentary, and you see all the candidates with the orange marker panels on their back, what does that look like? Maybe 100 or something, 100 and something on there. So maybe around about that much. Actually, no, I think by that stage, I want to say maybe it was 40 something actually for the Australian, like the actual numbers for the selection. So they did the barrier testing. There's probably around about close to 300. That had shrunk down considerably. So say somewhere between 40 and 50 is what I would say. Started the actual selection that I was on anyway, proper. And 27 of us, pretty sure it was 27, might have been 29, 27 or 29 of us finished. And they accepted 19 of us for the cycle at that time from our cohort. So yeah, so I reckon between 40 and 50 on the actual selection proper post barrier testing. 27 finished or 29 finished, 19 accepted for the cycle. So phase 2 is finished. The navigation, now we're into Lucky Dip, and Lucky Dip that's where we got no food or bugger all food. We got offal from probably day 3 or whatever it was, maybe day 3, day 4 of the Lucky Dip or the unlucky dip phase. And that's the stuff where you're seeing the guys carrying all the blinking munted equipment, square lashing things together, stretcher type things together to load a whole bunch of trunks and all that sort of stuff, all this other equipment onto it to then try to carry it in a stretcher style. We had a Zodiac boat, fully inflated, that we had to carry with all the oars and everything else, and concertina wire and jerry cans and a whole bunch of other stores, star pickets and everything else, sandbags, etc., etc. There's a whole bunch of just miserable items that you just think to yourself, there is no earthly reason as to why we should be carrying this fully inflated Zodiac boat with all this other equipment through the bush. There is no reason for it, but the regiment will find a reason for it. And as it turned out, we did need it, because then we got to a large river, what do you call it? River maze or whatever, whereby we then had to navigate that as well and get the paddles out and start paddling and get to fella. We were paddling for ages. It started off fairly not too bad, but then as it dragged on and went longer and longer, and you've had no food in your guts and you're just tired, you've had no sleep as well, it starts to become a bit miserable. And then mentally you're needing to, because you're just stuck on this boat with directing staff that are sitting there watching, listening to everything. Somebody's already been given the instructions of what to do, where to get to, who's in charge, your communication, everything's been watched, listened to, monitored by the directing staff in the boat, who's doing nothing, just sitting there, sitting there with your group, and while you're doing the work, and how you conduct yourself and all that sort of stuff. So that's must be an interesting perspective for the directing staff that were sitting on the boat, on ours and the other boats as well, with all the gear, with all the instructions, and then the communication and everything happening in order to achieve the jobs that we were given. Given that there's been very little sleep, next to no sleep, probably at least for, I want to say, the first, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that there was probably no sleep in that last phase, that last week, for probably the first 48 to nearly 72 hours. That wouldn't be uncommon. It wouldn't be a stretch, in my opinion, and from my recollection, even though I can't remember everything exactly, obviously. But yeah, we were pretty ragged, and struggling to stay awake, struggling to move fast, just that real lethargic type feeling, when you're just drained, when you have very little energy, but you need to keep going. And so yeah, carry that sort of stuff was blinking rubbish. We had another activity, which was a rover, and they chose the mongrelest piece of ground, four-wheel drive track for us to push that thing. And it wasn't just flat and it wasn't downhill. There was some not massively steep hills, but enough of a hill that there's no way we could push that rover up that incline with the divots and stuff that were in this four-wheel drive track. So we're given pulleys and ropes systems, little ones, like not big, massive block and tackle type setups to create a Z pulley system or anything like that, but enough to create a Z pulley system to help us and assist us, which still, was a strain, man. That tested the old communication, teamwork, and working together in terms of to achieve the objective. With the directing staff there again, just walking along, observing, hanging back, listening, just taking everything in, taking their notes. So yeah, that was, and then rotating obviously the responsibilities of leadership within the group. Is that bloody terrible Zodiac? Oh, Sandy, the stretcher carry. That was another miserable experience. This big bloody dead weight overalls, normal over like full overalls, full of sand, tied off at the ends, heavy as truck. Got to make an improvised stretcher and get Sandy on there because you got to thinking Sandy was an idiot and got blown up, so we got to get them out of there. You would think Sandy would be lighter if half of them had been blown up, but no. Sandy was fully kitted out and fully stuffed as fat as those overalls could go with sand. And so, if anybody's, grab a sandbag and give that a lift, and then imagine a full size set of overalls, chock a block with sand. That's a lot of weight. Um, and then we're trying to carry that in addition to all these other stores. It's never just one thing. It's never just the Zodiac. It's never just the Rover. It's never just the body. There's all the other things that are constant as well with regards to the equipment that you need to get the stores. And so for me, my mind went to the same sort of places as what it did on Von Temsky with the jerry cans and out in the dunes. We've got to get these stores and this equipment. It's a resupply. It's a supply of ammunition or food or medical equipment or whatever. So that's sort of where my mind went. And so with the instructions and when we rotated things around, whether I was in charge for a period of time because it did rotate around, or whether I was just one of the boys following the instructions of the team, my mentality or approach to it was like, we've got to get this there. And we're struggling, we're hurting, we're sore, but if we don't get it there to where we need to get this stuff to, then they're going to be worse off for it if we don't get there. So I'm grateful and glad for me personally that's where my mind took me and takes me when it comes to that sort of stuff. And I figured it served me well in NZ. It should serve me well here in Australia. And at that stage, everybody knows this is the last phase. We don't know if it's going to go for the full 7 days or if it's only going to be 4 days or 5 days. Pretty sure it went for the whole week. So it's 21 days. The selection, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Well, that's how I break it down anyway into those phases. And then what else is there? Oh, yeah, blinking whole bunch of stuff. The militias that you meet with, who keep you awake at night, and the different like moo. And who was the other? There was another one who had us chanting every blink in 30 minutes or whatever it was. Allah Akbar. We had to do that as we're meeting with these supposedly friendly militias, and we've got to help them. Part of that is we've got to fortify the defense systems in this area where we are. That's why we're carrying those stores and the star pickets come into play, and then the wire setups get set up and the concertina wire, etc. Then we've got to dig pits. Oh, we've got no shovels, so we have to use our cups canteen. Like the directing staff are really good at coordinating and fabricating these scenarios and things like that that they create for the selection to make it hard and miserable and make you question, why am I here 2 o'clock in the morning digging a shell scrape with my cups canteen? Like, why? When am I ever going to do this sort of thing? Just little things like that thrown in. And then I've got a chance every 30 minutes, something that I don't believe in, but this is part of building those like the whole scenarios and everything are given to you. Your job is to fill that role and to work in with the groups that you're with. And it's it's interesting. I like I said, that was all new. I didn't expect that. I understood then once I was in Lucky Dip, and probably once I was 2 days into it, I understood why everybody spoke about Lucky Dip and why it had the reputation that it had. Once I was in it, I was like, okay, I get it. Yep, this does suck. But it's not impossible. People have done it, and people are going to continue to do it, those that genuinely want to be here. And my experiences from NZ helped me to understand that if you want to be here or if you want to do anything, that you'll go ahead and do it. It's just going to may take a matter of time, but if your mindset is in the right space and you have done, you have been honest with your work and your physical preparation to get you to where you want to get to, and whatever that is, then you give yourself a good chance. Won't guarantee anything, but you give yourself a much better chance of getting to where you want to get to. So yeah, there's lots of nucky dip. The haka, yeah, I had to do a haka there during one of those things. I think that was at the stand with Mumu and helping that particular guerrilla group or militia group. And I think that might have also been the stand in the evening where we got the offal from whatever animal or animals it was that had been chucked in, and then it got brought out. Blinking, it looked like blinking Kentucky Fried Chicken to me. And so I think it looked like that to the other candidates that I was with as well. And Nick was in my group, and we blinking, soon as we were allowed to eat, we blinking hooked in as much as we could. Yeah, we did some direct attacks, did some OPs during this lucky dip phase. They crammed in a lot, So when I'm talking about the rover pushes, the boats and the carries, as well as the navigating the river systems, the sandy carry, the digging in, the meeting with militia groups, doing the observation posts, and then doing a hit on the dam. Like there were some big key working part tasks, like mission orientated type tasks, I would say is the way that I would describe it, conducted during and crammed into the very condensed period of time being that week. May not sound like it may sound like a lot of time, but it definitely wasn't. Not when you're running on fumes, not when you've had bugger all sleep. And then when we did start getting sleep in the final phase, I want to say we probably got maybe an hour, maybe sometimes 2 hours if we were lucky. And then you're up for the rest of the time. You're typically up for more than a 24-hour period, and then you may get another 45 minutes or an hour, up to 2 hours rest. So over the course of the week, the 7 days, maybe, so say, let's be generous and say 3 hours. I don't recall us ever getting 3 hours worth of sleep on the lucky dip, but let's be generous and say we got 3 hours over 7, 21. Yeah, 21. So we got 21 hours sleep roughly over that lucky dip phase. Yeah, 21. Which is bugger all when you think about it. There were times, obviously, I remember during the dam observation that we were doing before we went and did set some explosives and then set that up. And then when we were extracting, then we bloody got ambushed as part of the ambush, as part of the scenario, which we didn't know was going to happen. Then we had to emergency RV opposite direction, and it was blinking. The enemy was there. They were down on the low ground, firing up at us on this track that we were extracting on at night with no NVGs. And then to our left on the other side was just the steep hill. And this is at night time. So there's some danger and risk and stuff in there as well. They start shooting the enemy. We fire back, break contact, and then our break contact and emergency RV procedures up the hill. That was miserable. That was absolutely miserable with your pack on in the middle of the night, trying to get away because you don't want to get captured as well. Trying to go through that process, keep your team together. Yeah, that really sucked. It hurt the lungs too. It hurt everything. It hurt the body. It hurt the blinking mind. It hurt the lungs. Just everything was sore. And so anyway, we we got through that, first world problems, and then regroup, and then carry on moving to where we needed to get to. So even though we got bumped, we still needed to get to where we needed to get to. So they just did an awesome job of cramming in and putting in all these scenarios, activities, tasks, things that we had to learn and adapt to on the fly, and the whole time being observed and watched. Nighttime probably a little bit harder for the directing staff, even though they've got NVGs or had NVGs. Still a bit hard, and you can't the health and safety mechanisms of that, like I just spoke about. I could have easily fallen back down that hill, could have put my foot in the wrong place. There could have been a massive hole, and as we were going up, we couldn't see blinking bugger all. All we knew was we needed to get away, break contact in the opposite direction, not carry on running forward in case there's cut-off groups there where we just blinking, or cut-offs behind. Head in the opposite direction for what our orders and instructions were, and then just move. Get out of there as fast as we could. Now it's not like it was a big mountain, but for anybody, even during the day, if you're going up a steep incline in bush, not on a track, so you're off the beaten track, There's a whole bunch of stuff, dead fall lying around, rocks lying around, sharp things poking up and sticking out. Could have been snakes in that area, in that part of the bush. Like, you are just scrambling to get out of there. The snakes wasn't on my mind. Dead fall rocks, pointy things pointing up from the ground wasn't on my mind. On my mind was, we've just been ambushed. We need to engage back as best we can, blank rounds, BFAs, and we need to break contact, get out of here as quick as we can, go through our emergency RV procedure, and then still get to the target. We've still got a job to do. And so that's what you do. It's not until, probably not until a reflection like this for me personally, where I've sat down and thought, far out, yeah, I could have broken my leg, or guys could have taken a tumble, fallen backwards and blink and snapped their neck. Literally, that could have happened. And so it's just, I'm not saying blank and change the training at all. Not at all. Like, keep it as it is. Do the things that you do. The people going onto those courses, we are volunteers to go there. We're putting up our own hands saying, this is what I want to do. And if this is what I need to do to earn an opportunity just to get to the next stage, then I'm prepared to do it. Accidents happen all the time. And so, again, tragedy in terms of what happened to that reaction video that I got sent with regards to the UK soldiers during the selection and stuff. And rest in peace to those guys, and obviously condolences to their families and friends. But yeah, I wouldn't change any of the training. I wouldn't, you try to minimize the risks as much as you can. RIP to Muddle, Warrant Officer Muddle from the Australian SAS Regiment, died in a parachute accident tragedy recently. Training exercise. The training is as realistic as you can make it by day and by night, for a reason, because when they deploy on operations, they're not deploying in an environment where they can control the temperature. They're not deploying only when it's good weather. They're not jumping out of aircraft for the most part at an altitude whereby they feel comfortable with, or whatever the case may be. You're not going into an environment whereby you control all the variables, or you control the populace that's there. You know the ins and outs and the lay of the land. You're going into largely unknown conditions, environments where you are blind. You don't know the landscape other than intelligence that you get, other than potentially drone footage or satellite footage and the maps and the information that you get, and potentially, if you're lucky, some on-ground truth from humans, intelligence, people on the ground, etc. So you can't, in my opinion, can't dilute the training for the purposes of health and safety, because we don't want, because we're scared that troops will die in training. Yeah, like somebody put in the comments in that video, that the reaction that I did that went up this morning, it would be, in my opinion, I agree with it, it would be doing a disservice to the operators who are prepared to go away and deploy to war places, or places of war, if the training was diluted. By all means, take safety measures and precautions to make training as safe as you can. Hence, they have directing staff when there's live fire activities. There is directing staff during daytime, nighttime live fire activities. There are medical things and systems in place on standby. There are, on selections now, they've got tracking devices for the individuals. Radio comms, good radio comms and all that sort of thing. Like, there's lots of improvements that have been made, dare I say, from previous selections. Like, we never had trackers on my selection, not in New Zealand or in Australia. But that is something, I don't know how new that is, but that is something that's been happening for a while now, which is good, right? That's an improvement, nothing wrong with that. But in terms of the other activities and some of the stuff that I've just spoken about, the arduous nature of the kit and equipment that you're needing to carry, the mindset needed to go and push through that stuff. If you don't have that mindset for that type of training, which is sterile and blank rounds, it's going to be hard to have greater confidence in individuals when they deploy on real-time operations. That's just my opinion anyway. But yeah, there were some really good comments on that video that I spoke about. Sorry, I went off tangent there, but that was in regards to the ambush and my reflection now, just in how, dare I say, maybe lucky I and others may have been in terms of not suffering a catastrophic injury or a fatal injury or a major injury, which could have potentially removed us from the course, or guys could have lost their life. Not just my group, but any of the other groups that would have likely gone through the same activities and stands at different times. So yeah, it's but it was cool, man. Like, the 100% very well run course, professional, detailed, hard, and yeah, and bugger all food in that last phase. So anyway, we get through selection. Selection's finished. We didn't know how long we had left. I do recall there were a couple of times. Um, I want to say it might have been a fella, Al Reed, possibly. Shout out Al Reed. He was, I think, what was he, a warrant officer at the time? Tall, skinny fella, uh, Australian regiment guy, but one of the directing staff. He, I think it might have been him that may have come around one night and asked me and the person that I was next to, how long did we think we had left on the selection? And I want to say, I think at the time we might have been on day 20. So for some reason, I think it was pretty close. But at that time, I didn't want to say, "Oh, I reckon we've only got one more day left, staff." He wanted an answer, so put it that way. He wasn't leaving without an answer. And so my answer to him, what I recall saying vividly, at least the time frame was said, "Oh, I think we've probably got about maybe four more days to go, staff, 3 or 4 more days." And he goes, "Okay." And then he just carried on and moved off. And then asked the next person. Well, as it turned out, yeah, it was pretty much the next day. Can't remember exactly what time the next day, but the next day selection was finished. It was over. Um, and I was like, yes. I was like, oh, thank goodness. But yeah, I didn't want to go and say that, even though by that stage I started to get my bearings a bit and started to feel like, yeah, we're pretty close to the end of this. And obviously, you have those moments when you're with your team, especially at night time, if you have got some downtime and you're checking to make sure directing staff and that aren't around, and you're having a look. "Oh, how much time do you reckon? You reckon this is day 17? Yeah, I reckon this is 17. You reckon what, 18, 19? Yeah, I reckon 18. Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, probably about 2 more. Like, you're having those little conversations where you can, and with guys that you sort of connect with and click with, or at least I did anyway. So I wasn't having that conversation with everybody that I was there with. I was actually, for the most part, I was still very paranoid about a lot of stuff. So most of us, dare I say, kept pretty quiet. It was only if and where and when we felt like we had checked our BBDA and we had checked our area for Blinken directing staff, and we felt like it was safe enough to do so, that we would then have a sneaky little Q&A, like, "How you going?" or "How many days you reckon this is now? How far in do you reckon? How much time do you reckon we got left?" So yeah, those are good memories too. Finished selection, and then it was just pretty much get cleaned up, have a nice shower, and I think that's where I spoke about in on NZ selection. I want to say it was pretty similar by the end of the Australian selection, like getting cleaned up and showering, a blinking big gap between where my ass cheeks should be, and cleaning up and showering up, just because of all the weight and stuff that we've lost. And that weight loss, at least for me, there would have been weight loss in phase 1, phase 2, covering a lot of ground. Dare I say, somewhat self-imposed caloric restriction on my own part, as I spoke about, because I never wanted it. I never felt like I stuffed myself so full at each meal, because I was worried that that was going to be my last meal, because I was paranoid about being made to do PT for a blinking ridiculous amount of time and then throwing all that food up, and thereby losing the potential nutrients that may have been in that food that my body could have used. And I reckon my body used every bit of it for the lucky dip. And so yeah, by the end of that, come off super light again. I was about 79 kilos at the end of that selection. Started it at about 98 kilos, so just under 100 kilos. And I reckon the vast majority of that weight was shed on all of us in that last phase of lucky dip. Even though there's still a lot of work, even though we're still sweating lots during the first couple of weeks, that last week, that last phase, yeah, you're pretty glad when that's over. Well, at least I was, and the guys that I was with, we were all blinking full of smiles when all of that was done. So after that, then we stayed in Campbell Barracks. We were in I think it was a two-story. I think it's a two-story building that we're in. The basically the cycle barracks is what they became, or what they were mostly, and maybe somewhat transitional if they had other people coming from other camps for any period of time and temporarily staying there. we weren't living in the actual barrack blocks that operators were living in, those that were, either single, not married, and living in camp. We stayed in separate accommodation. That's where the cycle boys are, the plebs, the wannabes. That's where they are. Um, and prior to that, yeah, we were in the compound area next to where training wing was. What did I say? Training wing was training wing. Yeah, training wing, where the training wing was. Yeah, that's right. The wing was. And we formed up. Names were called out. This was my recollection. I can't remember exactly whether it was the names that were called out were removed or the names that were called out were staying. But there essentially ended up being two groups. One group being told to go over and have a brief with directing staff down that end. The rest of us, we had directing staff come to us, and they gave us a brief. As it turned out, our group were told that we were staying, and that we had been successful in passing selection, and that we would be moving on to the next phase, which was cycle. And the other group, they obviously got told that, that they weren't successful and that they would be getting returned to their unit, which is basically what happened. From that group, I can't remember exactly how many, but there were some of the 4 RAR guys of that 10 that passed that didn't. And I want to say I think they were the officers, not all of them. So Pete Ireland obviously got through, who was my recce platoon commander at 4 RAR. But I'm pretty sure I think there were a handful of officers from other officers from 4 RAR who were on the same selection, who, yeah, unfortunately, whatever reason, they completed it, but they didn't get the opportunity to come onto cycle with those of us that did. So, yeah, I want to say 27, 29 finished, 19 of us selected to stay. So that number in and of itself, 7 or 8, or potentially 10, and then there's the other 17 or 19 of us left over. That's why I wasn't sure. Like, that's because it's a fairly, both numbers are I suppose, probably consistent with how the Australian selection probably is. I don't know. But that number, it could have easily been reversed. It could have easily been the 8 or the 10 if it was 27 that finished, or 29 that finished respectively. It could have been 8 or 10 that were selected for cycle, and it could have been the rest of us, the 19 of us, that were told no, and or as it was, it ended up being the other way around. So yeah, I was glad, but that's why that's still that nervous apprehension. You have no idea, and that's still just the selection portion of the Australian part, and NZ is very similar. So it was just relieving to get that news and to be part of the group that could move into the wannabe barracks. And that's pretty much what we did. We got our gear, we got our briefing. We said a few words to some of the guys, like where we could. Like, I knew a couple of them, so I won't mention their names in here, but yeah, you felt gutted for them. Like, I had the same sort of feelings then for the lads, even some of the lads that I didn't know, that had put in all that work, that had completed everything, got to the end but didn't get selected. I had the same sort of feeling for those guys in Oz as what I had for guys that I knew of in from battalion or from the NZ selection. And so, yeah, like, as sad as I was for them, I'll be honest, I was super stoked for myself to be fortunate enough to have done enough, or to, at that stage, to have done enough to earn an opportunity just to go to the next stage, which was the cycle. But yeah, it was exciting, grateful, and then at the same time you feel bad for guys that you do know, and or even some of the guys that you don't know, because you know what they've just been through. You know what they've just you know what they have just put themselves through, and you know that they must have really wanted to be there. Why they would put up and suffer with all of that. But the other thing, I suppose, as well for me, is that it's not over. Like, they can come back and do it again. And so if they do want to be there, and they want to go through it again, like I shared, for me, I knew I had a reference point at the end of the NZ selection. I knew I wasn't expecting to be selected for cycle, but I knew, I was like, that's okay. don't select me. That's what I thought. I was like, if you don't select me, I'm coming back, because now I know for sure I can pass this thing. I just need to be better or do better or try to conduct myself better or whatever it was, um, and whatever briefing I would get at the end of that. And I felt the same in Australia. So because I'd passed the selection in NZ, I felt like even though I didn't know what I was in for in Australia, apart from the heat and potential snakes, and I actually thought crocodiles as well, but I was glad there was no crocodiles where we did the selection in Australia. Um, there were those bloody march flies though. Those things are terrible. Big, fat, ugly, bloody blowfly things, and they stab you, or they horse flies. I'm sure the guys. Sure they were calling them march flies, whatever. Maybe it was horse flies, but they got the big bloody pointy thing. Like bull ants are bad enough. Then they got the bloody jumping ants. Then they had those bloody retarded bloody flies. Bad enough all the other little flies that they've got when you're up in the Northern Territory. And here in NZ, you go like this to a fly, the fly buggers off. In Australia, fly will be right here. You go like this, and it just stays there. It's like it'll just walk around a bit more, walk around, like go up here. You have to like slap yourself in the face or blink and near take your nose off to get the bloody flies to get off your mask. But yeah, anyway, those are just some some memories that just popped into my head. Then where was I? Um, so we finished, got through that, moved into the barracks, uh, and then it was pretty much just after getting cleaned up. It was pretty much just recovery. Deservice your gear, some administrative stuff, and then that's where I discovered the mess, the SASR mess. Oh man, that place was like a blanking 5-star restaurant to me. That's what I thought. I remember going in there thinking, geez, this looks nice. Going up to the press, looking at the food, going, truck me, that looks awesome. And then just hoeing into everything, like loaded up my plate. There was no holding back that time. I wasn't worrying about leaving myself feeling a little peckish after that. I just ate and ate, and so did the other guys. Went up for seconds, went up for thirds sometimes in the mess. The food was just that good. My stomach didn't feel like it had, when you've been not eating much for a long period of time, your stomach shrinks, and it's like, oh man, I'm so full after having a little bit. Yeah, no, I stretched my stomach. I was like, I'm blinking, eating this food. Yeah, it was good. It tasted really nice. So we're in barracks. I'm hoeing into the food every meal. Like I'm making breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like I'm being at every meal. So all the boys, and it's more, yeah, just admin type stuff. I think I would have called my sweetheart and spoke with her and said, hey, like this phase is done. Still got a long road to go though. Got the cycle, and there was no like there was no leave, so didn't fly back to Sydney or anything like that. Um, Everything that I had was there, my pack and my base kit, my rear echelon bag and that sort of thing. And anything that I had in my barrack room, I didn't need anyway. There may have just been blanket and pillow and whatever, but I was about to be like, we were in our rooms and we are issued with blankets and pillows and stuff anyway. So I didn't need anything else back at camp. And I'm pretty sure I'd taken most of my stuff, if not all my stuff, to where my wife was anyway. She wasn't in the barracks, but she had come over and was living in Sydney with her sister and with our baby, and so had stuff there. Didn't really need to go worry about the barracks. They weren't offering flights for us to go back and spend any time with our loved ones or anything like that anyway. And there wasn't a like what I had in NZ, whereby we got sent back or go back to battalion, whatever. I had plenty of stuff there before going back to cycle, so we're pretty much there. Admin stuff, logistic stuff to do, put weight back on, and then start getting briefings on what would be happening and what we would be flowing into onto the cycle, which I guess cycle is pretty much very similar to NZ in terms of courses wise, like parachuting, combat survival, all the CQB stuff, patrol procedure stuff, demolition stuff, medics, helo stuff. Like just it was all pretty similar, just different instructors and different environments. And so I don't know. No, maybe I'll just talk about it now. So yeah, we finished selection. We're in the barracks. What's that? It's like hour 40. My bloody New Zealand one, just on selection alone, went for like 3 hours. So I should be able to get this one. Seems like I'll be able to get this one done in one. So that was prior to selection, during selection, post-selection. Post-selection is just pretty much eating and admin and briefings and then starting to get ready. No connection or physical connection back with my family or my daughter at that time after the selection. So you just stay there, and then you're rolling into the cycle. I want to say cycle, I think I might have mentioned in another video, I want to say we finished and we're badged maybe around September, August, September, or August to October. Somewhere in there, I think, is when we had our badging. Maybe more September, October rather than August. August just seems a bit too early. So anyway, what was different about it? Cycle. Yeah, just different instructors, different environment. Courses are basically the same. If I was to think of the combat survival in Australia, obviously different landscape and environment altogether, other things to worry about. But I remember they brought in a guy, Bob Cooper. He was a bigger, heavier set guy, fair Pākehā fella, big white beard. I remember him having. I'm pretty sure he's got, and I think I might still have one somewhere, probably in our stuff that's in storage, a Bob Cooper survival kit. Really knowledgeable fella. I don't know if he's still alive to this day. Hopefully he is, but I think he spent a lot of time with the Indigenous Aboriginal people and learnt a lot of skills. And so he was brought in as an instructor on some of the stuff that we were doing, which was cool. Starting fires from scratch using the blink and bow and string method, and then that was, part of the competencies. You had to be able to start a fire and all that sort of thing without any flint or without any matches or anything, without any other fire starters, just your two pieces or with your wood, your hardwood, your softwood or medium type wood, your bow, use your shoelace from your boot, and then get all your tinder and everything ready. And then no, not tinder, the app, the actual tinder to start your fire, and then get that going, and then build your fire up, because there were times when we needed to do that at night when we were trucking cold. So yeah, that was cool. What else is there? It was just cool seeing this guy come in, being brought in with the knowledge and experience that he had in teaching us that stuff. We did basic weapon making and that sort of stuff, and napping and all that sort of things with the rocks and glasses and pieces of glass and other bits and pieces. Shelters, obviously, meat, food preservation, all that sort of stuff, which was, it was cool. I mean, it wasn't ideal. It's not like they gave us a heck of a lot of time to preserve our meats before we went on the run or anything like that, because they didn't, but it was what it was, and we made do with it. What else is there? Going on the run, getting the goat. Like I think I shared that in another story. This is on cycle, but this is all part of the combat survival. Chasing that down onto the beach, and the mother goat sacrificing itself for the little one, and the little one got away in the end. But we had a good feed that night. What else? Oh, one of the boys in their group, I think one of their guys had on cycle would have anaphylactic reaction to bee stings. So his group actually got some honeycomb, raw honey from Blinken wild bee nest out in the bush. He just happened to be in that group. They managed to get the honey and stuff out of there for their team, which was just like awesome for them. But he had to stay well away from that just in case. So that was their own sort of risk mitigation and health and safety measures that they took. But when we caught up and were having chats, they shared some of that story, and I've probably butchered that story a lot. But in terms of what they were talking about, those are some of the bits and pieces that I remember, which is cool. And then seeing the honey that they had in just a makeshift can or whatever they could get the honey out of, they would talk about they would just scoop into it and then have a bit of a boost from that. So that's definitely would have been awesome. We didn't have any of that, but we're pretty fortunate and happy with the things that we did find and what we were able to catch and kill and eat and that sort of thing. Oh yeah, I think I spoke about this on that same course, whereby we were getting a lesson from one of the instructors, one of the Vietnam vets, during that course. And then there was a herd of goats behind us. There was a weapon between the groups, and there was, I want to say 3 or maybe 5 live rounds for the group. An unzeroed weapon, a Steyr is what we had. And at that time, like I was okay at shooting, and then even though we hadn't zeroed that weapon or anything, uh, we saw them for, they were behind us. Well, actually the instructor, the SAS veteran Vietnam vet that was instructing us, he's the one that directed us to it. So we turned around and saw them out in the open, because this is where we were having our instruction. It wasn't like we were in a classroom or anything. The bush was our classroom. And as he's giving the lesson, he says, look at that over there. And we turned around and we could see all these goats. Like, oh, and we knew that we had the weapon and the live rounds, and then we got given the green light to look to get ourselves a goat if we could. Like if we shot it, it was down and up and across there on the other side of this re-entrant. But it was on the other side. It's reasonably steep-ish, but not steep enough that you're not going to go climb that and go retrieve your meat if you get it. So anyway, long story short, I fired 2 rounds, missed. Fired the first round, didn't see where the splash went. Other guys that were in the group didn't see where the splash went either, which was, yeah, well, I don't know. We just didn't see where the splash went. I didn't see where it went. Had the crosshairs lined up on a goat that I thought I was on. Squeezed the trigger, Lincoln, nothing. They did start to move, but they sort of like, what's the word? Like got a bit of a fright, but they didn't scatter. They didn't bomb burst. So they're still not massive distance away, maybe probably less than 200 meters, I reckon. I want to say this down and up as the crow flies. So again, not far. And then I was like, bloody hell. Nobody saw where the round was, so I didn't know how or where to adjust it at all. So I tried to make an adjustment and went more sort of center of mass of the goat that I was lining up, and still nothing. And then one of the guys, the fellow that I mentioned that was helping me with the Australian national anthem, Zulu, I'm pretty sure it was him. He then grabbed the weapon and he fired the round, cracked off the round, and dropped it first time. Dropped one first time, first round. So we still had a couple of rounds left. By that stage, when that goat dropped, I think that's when the rest sort of bomb burst and spread out. So yeah, so we got the goat, but the goat wasn't just for our group; it was for the whole group. So what's that? 17, 19 hungry men. Plus the directing staff, plus some additionals like other guest instructors, for want of a better term, and or dare I say, other support staff. So that one goat, definitely, it's not like we had a big feed that night. It just wasn't the case. So, but yeah, good shooting from Zulu. Rubbish shooting from me with regards to trying to get the goat, but somewhat redeemed myself, although it wasn't with rounds, it was with a stick. When we set that when we went foraging, and then we seen a whole herd of goats coming towards us as we were downwind, and then we just dropped down. They kept moving towards us, this herd of goats, but then they stopped. We're still looking at them through the long grass. They're not close enough for us to jump on and grab any of them yet. They've still stopped a fair distance, so clearly their goat sensors are blinking, tinkling away, thinking something's not right here. Let's not carry on any further. And then we thought, we can't wait any longer. We were like giving each other the nod. Yeah, let's go. And then we jumped up. Soon as we jumped up, those goats just bomb burst. We were up on a high feature. This was in Kalbarri by this stage. And we were up on the high ground. Beach was down there, like a narrow piece of beach. And this one goat that I locked onto, chasing with my club/stick, just did a runner straight towards the steep slope down towards the beach. Just went straight off and then straight down. A little goat went with it as well, and I just chased it. I went straight down off it as well. It was steep as. I probably took a tumble a couple of times, but we were that hungry that I just chased it. So we went down. A couple of the other boys, actually Zulu, come down after. I think he must have tried to get another one, but it got away. They were blinking too fast. And then he had seen me going down to the beach. That the goats had got down there, or the goat and the baby goat got down there. I'm going down there, then he must have come down after. And I just kept chasing it. I was like, if I don't get this thing, and I could see towards where it was going, there was like these rocks and then just the steep embankment again to go back up. So if they were going to go back up, they're going to have to start climbing hard to get up that thing. So was I, if I was going to have any chance of chasing it. But I felt like once I got down onto the beach part, I was just running for my life to get that thing. And because all I could see was food. And so running along. Anyway, the adult goat turned around and just started running straight back towards me, and the little goat kept going. So they must have communicated. The little goat kept going, didn't turn around. The big one come back, and I take it as I was looking to just either blink and buck me with its head or sacrifice itself. Turns out it sacrificed itself. It came, and I just blinked and clubbed it straight across the head. It went, and then just like was down on the side. I cracked it again, just to try to put it out of its misery as soon as I could. Um, and then probably hit it 2 or 3 more times after that. Turned around, saw my mate Zulu was coming as well. Left it there because I knew, well, he could look after that. And then I went chasing the little one. um, not to club that one, but to grab it. And then we had some paracord and all that sort of stuff, some little bits and pieces from our survival kit, but we would have kept that because we didn't know exactly how much longer we had to go in the combat survival. But the intent and plan was to keep that thing till such time as we got hungry again, because we felt like we were going to have a good feed from that one, and then we'll keep this alive, and then we'll, unfortunately, sorry little fella, we're hungry here. We're going to eat you. But chased it. It got to that steep embankment area, so where there were rocks, and the beach was pretty much cut off by that stage, but you could go up this pretty steep sand, and get up there. It tried the first time, so I slowed down because I didn't want it to run past me, and then started stalking it, getting closer and closer towards it. I probably got within, I want to say, 5 meters. So it failed the first couple of attempts to try to get up, because I can see all of this as I'm still needing to make up ground. Get there, and then I start walking in towards it slowly. Failed the first 2 or 3 times trying to get up. It stopped. I remember it stopped, turned around, looked at me, and I'm moving closer and closer towards it, getting ready to just sort of charge at it and try to tackle it. And then it just turned around after it looked at me, and then just went straight up. Didn't slip and fall down. The first 2-3 times that I saw it when I was still running after it, it looked like it, lost its footing or whatever and slipped, come down, blinking, got back up, tried again, fell down. Well, that third or fourth time when it tried, as I got closer to it, it wasn't falling down that time. And anyway, got away. So yeah, the baby goat got away. We then went back, picked up the kill that we had, and then took that back. We gutted it before we carried it back, and then basically carried the. Oh, actually, no, we didn't. We didn't. I don't think we did gut it. Oh no, we did. We did gut part of it. We kept obviously the liver and the heart and the lungs and stuff in that as well, of the kill, and then we and carried it back. I carried it for a bit, then I got tired, and then other guys carried it. I think Zulu carried it for a while as well. Maybe he carried it the rest of the way back. But either way, we had a good feed that night. Directing staff popped in that evening, just out of the blue, in terms of where we were for that phase. We gave him one of the rear legs to take back, so he took that. And I think he shared that with some of the other support staff that he had around. But yeah, we were pretty hungry, tired. That was a huge morale boost for us to have that feed that night, like a proper feed, like our group of Zulu. I think it's 5. Actually, may have been 6. May have been 6 of us, 5 or 6 of us in our group. But we ate well that evening. Got our fire started. Just sat around it, cooking up bits and pieces of the kill that we had, and just enjoyed it. And then I think we still had some. I think we might have tried to preserve some of that, but the weather was pretty ugly as well. It didn't really help in terms of our attempts, and we didn't really have the resources in terms of where we were. So Calberry, that phase, we were along the coastal phase, hence why I mentioned the beach stuff. There wasn't a lot of bush around at that stage, so, or close by to where we were. But anyway, that was good. What else stands out for me on the cycle in Australia? Patrol procedures. Yeah, that was good. What stands out for me on patrol procedures is that I think it was Al Reed again. Shout out to Al, one of the, I want to say he was a warrant officer in the regiment, but at training wing at the time, or maybe a staff sergeant. But during, I think, the last one of the final phases of the patrol procedures course, and one of the contacts that we did, he come up and blink and gave me the dreaded tap and said I was dead. So we're doing the assaulting and everything. Felt like everything was going well. And then he comes up and says, "You're dead. You're dead. Drop down, stay down." It's like, ah. I looked at him like, really? Am I dead? So he goes, "Yes, you're dead." So that was it. I was out of the assault, out of the attack. And then the boys had to carry me out. So I got, and that sucked. I would have rather been doing the carrying. It was uncomfortable. But the boys, Zulu, he's not a big man, very lean, wiry, must have been, I want to say 70 kilos, maybe lighter. He may have been lighter than that, may have been 68 or something like that, maybe even been lighter than that. Say 65 to 70 or 65 to 75 kilos at a push, if he's just had a feed or something, maybe, or a big feed, who knows. But light, lean, wiry guy. uh, I remember him carrying me the vast majority of the way. um, yeah, he's awesome. Can't speak highly enough of that guy. So yeah, I remember him carrying me for ages, and I think that's why it was so uncomfortable, because he's bloody bony. Because he's just bloody muscle and bone, skin and bone, muscle and bone. No blanket, excess fat on the fella. And yeah, what else? I'm sure there were other guys. I think Nick probably carried me for a while too. And then I think a decision was made at some point. I think I remember being on like an improvised stretcher and being carried. So then being carried by several people, probably because they got whore-hung. I mean, this fella's too fat. I'm gonna bloody carry this fella by myself each time. So yeah, I think they wanted to try to distribute my weight across the other guys. And then eventually, as we went, I don't know how long it went on for, then I was magically given the directing staff's touch of revival or resurrection. I was alive again, and put my gear back on, probably much to the relief and delight of the other guys that I was on cycle with on that course, and then gear back up and then carry on patrolling. That's probably one of the main ones that stands out. Break contacts and all the fire maneuverment stuff was cool, was good. Again, it wasn't worrying about snakes and all that sort of stuff, wasn't um, high on the list of, or at least for me, wasn't high on my list of thought processes when it came to doing the job. We understood the environment that we were in. We understood that there's brown snakes and red belly black snakes and blank and everything else that Australia has, and in that particular part of the training area where we were. But we were also confident. We had the med kits, we had medics on standby, the safety resources and stuff that were there, not right next to you, but in a base camp emergency call, radio call. When there's more live firing, they're much closer. They're just sort of back in a staging area, is what I would call it, when you're going through all those sorts of things. And so they're prepared for a lot of things. Plus, you've got the guys next to you that are going to render any immediate first aid. Plus, you've got the directing staff who are there watching everything, coordinate or making sure that safety parameters are being met and that there aren't any unsafe practices. And if there is, they're blinking stopping that whole activity as soon as you can. All the briefings and stuff are taken care of, and everybody knows what to look out for, what to listen for, if the directing staff is calling a stop. And yeah, and then everything else is placed on you to understand and know what it is that you're supposed to be doing. It's been explained, it's been demonstrated, and then now it's time for you to go out there and execute it and do those things. So yeah, that was all good fun, man. But again, same as, no real different to NZ in terms of the training, just different environment and different instructors. I didn't notice. People have asked me, oh, were there any major differences that stand out to me in terms of procedural stuff or conduct or tactics and that sort of thing? Not really. I can't think of any major standouts in terms of tactics, operationally, strategically, with regards to the courses and the conduct of those courses. And then eventually, well, I can't speak for being in the squadron and the regiment in NZ, but then being in the regiment was pretty much the same sort of stuff that we had done in cycle, but trying to now look at refining it, making it better, iron sharpening iron, so to speak. More so us coming in there and being sharpened up by the senior operators within the squadron and within the troop that you go to. and then just making sure that you turn up every day and do your job as well as you can. That daily renewable contract to blink and turn up and do a good job, or as well as you can with that, and take on the feedback with regards to if you've slipped up or not doing what you're supposed to be doing or capable of, and then rectifying those and then going again. Short of any blinking major breaches like a UD, probably would have been gone from there. Just there probably would have been some. Thankfully, thankfully I didn't, and I didn't know of any guys whilst I was there that had any of those sort of things. Get through that cycle. Oh, probably one of the main ones. Actually, one of the ones that stands out. And I don't know, probably just from a conduct and maybe tactic procedure, was on CQB. So in NZ for the CQB part, when we were doing changeover drills, I had been taught in NZ at the time, we'd raise our weapon, we'd put the rounds in, and then drop the main weapon, your long weapon, down. We would sidestep to the left or to the right, draw the pistol at the same time as we're moving, and then raise it, and then engage. Again, another double tap, rounds on target. So I'd become used to that. Long weapon stoppage, stepping off to the side, and then drawing the weapon so you're off that immediate line of where you've just fired from. As you're stepping, you're drawing your pistol, and then you're bringing it up. By the time you slide your other foot in, your pistol's pretty much up at the target, and then you're lining that target back up as quickly and as accurately as you can, and then double tap into that. So in Australia, I naturally did that first time on the indoor range when we were doing those, and we went through stoppage drills. We hadn't been told not to do it. We had been told we're going to get into the stoppage phases now, or stoppage drills. Long weapon, bang, bang, stoppage, weapon down, draw your secondary or your pistol, and engage the target. So pretty easy. So when we did that and we're on the line, I defaulted automatically to what I had been taught and had been doing in NZ. Stoppage, weapon down, stepped off to the side, raised my weapon, and double tap. Shortly after that, there was a stop. There was a stop called to us being on the line. And I want to say, I actually think it might have been Weeksy. For some reason, I can picture him quite prominently for a number of the training and stuff that we were doing, but I think it was that one in particular as well. And he's super chilled, calm about it. There was a stop called to the line for our line after that. So weapons that were holstered, sort out the stoppage, and then you stand there really waiting for the next command up or whatever. And he was cool. Come over. Yeah, I'm sure it was Weeks. He come up and he goes, hey, because by that stage, I guess instructors had already heard, oh, there's a guy here that's done the New Zealand one, and he's done the cycle, but he was an idiot and got into a fight, and then Blinken got sent back to battalion, so he's come over here. And so he come up real chilled and just goes, hey, mate, when you do your stoppage, where did you get that, like stepping off to the side? He was just sort of inquiring, didn't start blasting me, didn't yell at me or anything. Very chill, very calm. And I just told him, I said, oh, sorry, staff, that's just habit. That's what I had been doing in NZ. And he goes, yeah, no, we don't do that here. So he goes, yeah, don't do that. And I was like, okay, yep, yeah, staff, sorry. And he goes, no worries, yeah, just don't do it anymore. I was like, okay, roger that, got it. And yeah, I didn't. I didn't do that anymore after that. Not on that course anyway. Did do that other times once we were in, because there was a whole bunch of different types of shooting and maneuvering and discussions and stuff happening with guys that I was in my troop with. But for that, and for that period of time on the course, and that's, again, I think that's things helpful for those that are looking to join a unit like that. Take on board the information that you get from the directing staff as soon as you can, and just apply it. Apply what it is that they're telling you to do. Like Big Phil Campion has said, it's monkey see, monkey do. Like, they're going to explain to you what they want you to do. A lot of times they'll demonstrate it, and then you go out and do it. In that particular scenario, it wasn't demonstrated, it was explained. But it was explained enough, and in that explanation, there was at no point did he say, take a step to the side or a step to the other side and draw your pistol. I just did that by default because of the wiring that I had upstairs from what I had recalled and what I'd been trained in doing. So yeah, but I didn't do it after that. So the course continued. Made sure that that was pretty clear and easy to stay in my head. It wasn't a threatening voice. It wasn't a scary voice. It was just a very calm, measured, curious voice when he asked me. When he engaged with me and said, "Oh, why are you doing that? Like, where did you?" And so when I explained it to him, he's like, "Okay, yeah, don't do that again. We won't be doing that here. Just stay on your line. Do your when you have your stoppage, do your stoppage. Just draw your pistol where you are, and then re-engage the target." I was like, "Okay, yep, your stuff." Yes. So, yeah, that's probably the only one really that I can think of. The big standout. Not that I think that's a big deal or anything like that, but clearly, I think in that situation, and as we went through, and then when you start doing your CQB and going through rooms and all that sort of thing, um, the need for everybody to be on the same page is important, and to have the same standard or minimum standard for where people are at and what you're going to be doing is important, because there's a whole bunch of things I could delve into that in terms of if your backup, if your mates know that you've got a stoppage and they hear that because that's what you're calling out, you're probably going to have somebody come and swing over towards your target as well, or come up from behind you. And if you are, so some of the rationale and explanation when I had chats with the directing staff that were there as a cycle member, they started to give more information and talking about, if I draw my pistol, step to the right or step to the left when I'm doing that and raising it, somebody may be coming in to support. I might step straight in front of where they're raising their weapon. They're probably going to dip it down and come around, or dip it down and blink and move to another direction, because they would probably do that. But to minimize that and anybody needing to do that, and potentially me inadvertently stepping into the arcs of fire or line of fire of somebody else who may be coming up to support, stand my ground in terms of where I was the instruction. Draw my weapon there, stay there, and then re-engage. If somebody else does come, then they don't need to. There's just a little bit less for them to have to worry about in terms of is this fellow going to move left or right? Like, just sort of depends on either if there's a wall hard against here, or if there's other obstacles, or if there's other things in and around. But to mitigate that, it was just stay where you are and pull your secondary out there. So yeah, glad that I took that on board. We had that conversation, explained it, and then we were straight back into that. And so when stoppages are done, made sure that my feet stayed where they were, and then we carried on those. Lots of all the other moving, shooting on the move and all that sort of stuff came later on. But yeah, that's probably dare I say, the main one that really stands out now. It's interesting as I do this reflection, thanks to those that have sent through the requests for these videos, like things that I don't know if they would have popped into my head had I been just doing like a pre-recorded video, or maybe they would, because I probably would have rambled on for around about the same time. But yeah, that's probably that. And then fast forward, badging happened, and that was awesome. Yeah, that was really cool. Most of us were still there at the end. Oh, where's the bloody the picture's not up there. Actually, let me have a look. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, sorry, I can see there's people in the chat. Well, there's comments in there. Sorry, peeps. I can't see those comments right now, but I just saw the little thing on the side there of the live. Where are we? Just trying to, just so I can get a count, not to put the picture up on the screen. Oh, come on, man. Nope. Oh, there it is. Oops. Move that one. Put that up there. I can see everybody in there. Oh, I can name everybody, I mean. One of the lads sadly not with us anymore. What is it? So we ended up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 of us finishing or receiving our bureau and being badged. So maybe it was only 18, but I want to say I'm pretty sure that there was 19. So it looks like only one potentially got RTU'd or failed something. I don't remember anybody getting injured at any time during the cycle in Australia. So I think it may have been a removal from the course, but I can't remember who that would have been. So yeah, 18 of us completed it and got there in the end, which is cool. Sorry, I'll have a look at this chat now. What's this? At prepared for, were you ever tempted to try out for 2-2? Yeah, I was. Yeah, I've spoken about that on it. Sorry, you're probably not even on the chat anymore, bro. I've just seen I've been going for over 2 hours and I'm only just looking at the chat now. My apologies for that. Yeah, it was. By the time I thought about doing that, I was out of the Australian regiment. I'd been doing the private sector, caught up with my mate Zulu in the green zone. He was doing, I think he was on Task Force Black with Tutu at the time on a long look exchange from SASR to Tutu. And he was loving it. He was there, yeah, just on an exchange. He hadn't changed over. He hadn't done the UK selection or anything. But I caught up with him in the green zone while I was doing private security stuff. That did plant the seed even more so. I did come back to Perth and said, hey, I think I'm going to go do the UK selection. Me thinking that, well, my darling has followed me from NZ to Australia. She'll probably just follow me to the UK. We've got a few more kids, but we can just bring them over too. And she said, well, you can go, but we're going to stay here. You can go over, but we're going to stay in Perth. You're going to have to travel backwards and forwards to CS. It's like, so yeah, at the end of the day, I didn't go. Could have gone, but didn't go. So some people have said, oh, do you think you should have gone? Everything worked out the way it was. But yeah, just probably the timing of that and the thought of going over there, yeah, just didn't happen at the, dare I say, the right time. But everything else that has happened, or everything that has happened at the time when it was supposed to happen. But yeah, that would have been good. I would have liked that. I would have liked even just the opportunity to be on the selection, but I would have been going there with the intent to get into the unit, not to just go and participate. Sig, if during your time in SASR, either during selection, reinforcement cycle, or after making it to a Sabre squadron, had you screwed up badly enough to be RTU'd, where would they have sent you? Oh, they would have sent me back to 4 RAR. So anybody that was being RTU'd, or if you were going to be RTU'd, you'd go back. So we had guys on my cycle from 6 RAR, 2 RAR, 1 RAR. Had a guy from what's it called, like a National Guard type thing, but it's not called. It wasn't called National Guard. It's the guy that sadly passed away now. Not on operations. He was doing some other private work. Oh, what was it? I can't remember what the name of the bloody department was that he was with anyway. We didn't have any Air Force guys on mine. Didn't have any Navy guys, and there weren't any civvies. No, I don't think any of the guys, actually, if I have a look at that photo, I don't think any of the guys were TF either. Let's just go here. I'll look at the image without their blurred faces so I can see them. So he was 3 RER, 4 RER, I think he was 3 RER, not sure where he was from. I was at 4, not sure where he's from, maybe 2, 4 RER, 4 RER, 4 RER, 4 RER. Not sure where he was from. 4 RER, 6 RER, 4 RER. That's one I want to say 6 RER as well, and not sure where he was from. And yeah, that's a fellow I can't remember. Not a National Guard, but something that was like that. But yeah, can't remember what it was. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 that were from 4 RER from the lot that finished, and then the other 10 were a mix. 3 RER, 3 RER, 6 RER, 6 RER. The unit that I'm not sure about, and then these guys, not sure which unit they were from. So yeah, that's not it. Dun, dun. Hopefully that answers that question, Sig. Back to one RZR or to some ADF infantry unit. Oh, yeah, sorry, bro. You probably asked me that ages ago, and you may not even be here anymore. But yeah, because I was in the ADF, I would have been sent back to 4RAR. If I had have messed up while I was in 4RAR, I probably would have just been kicked out of the ADF as a whole. So I couldn't deploy with the ADF to Timor unless I was a citizen. So they went through all that process, and that was actually fast tracked for me, which I'm grateful for. Yeah, so, but had I stuffed up whilst over west, I would have been sent back to 4RAR because it's the parent unit that I'd come from. Afternoon, cuz. Yeah, I'm blinking late as to the party. That's between Rubber Kiwi and Sig. Did you ever have any life-threatening training incidents during selection or cycle, Joe, or even while in the unit training? Interesting question. Life-threatening training incidents. Life-threatening. Put it this way, I don't feel like I personally in NZ or Australia was ever in a life-threatening incident. Well, there wasn't an incident that I felt like was life-threatening. I mean, it was definitely life-threatening, but it was just part of the training or part of the course at the time, like jumping out of an airplane. Some might look at that as a life-threatening thing, but I didn't. I just thought of it. This is exciting. This is cool. This is what I joined the army for. um, could be, yeah. Maybe it's just people's interpretation, but I can't think of anything, Rubber Kiwi, whereby I felt like I had life-threatening training incidents, live fire shooting right next to your lads. You're in an LEP. I remember one LEP on the patrol procedures course in Australia. We were in a diamond formation, and the target popped up, not directly in my arc, but safely for me to engage it if I wanted to. But obviously the intention and the way that the scenario was done was for that person that was in that area. So on my right shoulder, my slight right, in our diamond formation, was for that person to engage because that's where the target popped up from. Not directly in front of them, but off to the side, but well within, definitely not in the 180. So whatever the narrower sort of, what's that, 10, say 10 and 2, definitely within the 10 and 2 of that particular person sitting in that point of the LEP or the lie-up point, well within theirs, for them to engage that target. I'm there looking on mine, even though we're doing 180, it wasn't on a 180 of that person. I'm still doing 180 on my side in my area, and I turn and look, and just as I turned the first time, that target that was up, or I assume was up but didn't get engaged, was just lowering down. So they had the remotes, the control. So as I turn this way to just sort of scan my arcs as we're sitting there and just slowly turning, we're not moving fast like what I'm doing here, but fast. Turning, that target is just lowering itself down. I was like, okay, maybe the bro didn't see it. Anyway, I started paying more attention to that area while still checking my area. Looking, scanning, couldn't see anything, keeping sort of one eye that way and one eye out towards these other areas, and then trusting the other boys that they're scanning the areas and stuff as well. Anyway, I see that target pop up again, the same target that I'd just seen in that area lower down, and I pause for a second to see if old mate is going to engage it. He doesn't, so I raise my weapon and then start engaging it. We got spoken to as a team, as a patrol, in very general terms. I remember that conversation, the instructor talking about, so that's, trying to talk to whether or not that's a training safety incident or life and death. The instructor speaking to us at that time was on our case, or being very firm, I should say, and telling us that we need to be alert and aware and be checking our areas of responsibility when we're in wherever we are, but particularly if we're coming into a lie-up point. And he spoke about, apparently that target had popped up. That was the third time that same target had popped up. I didn't see it the first two times. I must have seen it the second time. And that third time, that same target came up. And so when I saw it, I assumed it was the second time. I did pause to see if old mate was going to do anything. I didn't make any sudden move at that time too. Then when I thought, okay, this target's been up long enough, I raised my weapon quickly and then engaged it. Then the target dropped down. Then we were into our break contact. We were into our drill. LUP's compromise, get into the drill, put rounds down range, target indication, giving all that stuff. People are on me, seeing where my rounds are going. Then everybody's putting a blast into there. Then as they're going, you get your gear on, then start covering other people, get their gear on, blah, blah, blah. Then you start breaking contact, get out of there, etc. Real simple drill, and the instruction that we'd been given. But yeah, I think there was some extra conversations had with whoever the individual was at that time in the LEP, just to sort of switch on a bit more and make sure that we're looking in our areas. I then got spoken to as well, and the instructor asked why I engaged the target. And I said, well, because I saw it sitting, I saw it popped up sitting there. It's not like it's right out in the open, right? So they're not just like, ta-da, here they are with a big neon sign, here I am. They're those little, I forget what the size is called, but you got the figure 11s, which is the full body, the figure 20s, which is the blinking thing. You got the Huns heads, and then you got that sort of half body shape one. So anyway, it was one of those half body ones popped up. I forget the blinking name for it or the numbers that they use for it. And yeah, they asked me why I engaged it. I said, oh, because I saw the target stuff, and I said, I think I'd seen it earlier when I was scanning and came around, but at that time it looked like it had just gone down. So because I saw that movement, all the why things are seen sort of stuff, because I saw that movement, that caught my attention, and so I started, still wanting to scan my area, but then checking that area again, thinking that it might pop up again, and it just so happened that it did. I said to the staff, and so the good thing for me is that the directing staff that were there, because there's several directing staff watching these types of activities, they saw what I'd done, and I said, oh, I saw what appeared to be the target again. I did pause and waited to see if my oppo would engage it, and didn't look like it was going to, or didn't look like it did. So then I didn't want it to drop down again while we're still sitting there, so I engaged the target. And he's like, oh, okay. Just said, okay, no worries. Thanks for that. And then just told me to get back over there. so that's what happened. Again, is that an incident in terms of, to your question, life-threatening? No, but from the context of depending on what the staff are looking at, it could be viewed life-threatening if you don't take action. I guess is my take on that, in terms of fulfilling your roles and responsibilities within wherever you are in the team. So that was interesting. Or even while in the unit training. Probably some of the MOE stuff, explosive MOE stuff. Again, I wasn't fragged or anything, but you feel the hit, the air, sort of the overpressure when you're in certain areas and doing the tasks and work and stuff that you're there to do as part of the training. And when you're blowing through walls or doors or blinking, mostly doors and some windows and or hanging off ropes, making sure that you don't have your rope close to where the explosive's going to go, especially when you're hanging off the rope and you're the MOE person. Again, just probably depends on people's interpretation of life-threatening incidents or events in training. I didn't consider those I didn't, in my head at the time, and still at this time, I don't consider those life-threatening incidents. I just think that's part of training, and it's high-risk training. But there are really good training methods and teachings that are given to the students, candidates, to ensure the safety of all those things, making sure that your rope is stowed out of the way and how to do that, making sure how and where to position the charges, and how you have everything set up before you even get to that position, the dry rehearsals that are done over and over again. So I just, even back then, I feel like there was lots of really good safety measures. There's probably a lot more, dare I say, a lot more and other things in play now. I wouldn't be surprised, but I've always felt like there was enough. Near death, I probably felt like I was choking to death on the CS gas in NZ. When you're in the kill house and then you take off the mask and then you start going through the big four: name, rank, serial number, date of birth, and then they start asking you questions. I don't even think I got through my name, rank, serial number, and date of birth. I might have got as far as Joe Hall and then just started spluttering away and feeling like I couldn't breathe. And then they tell you to get out of here, and there's a little bit of a maze to make your way through, coughing and spluttering, coming out the other side and blinking, choking away. That potentially might be one. But again, I didn't view it like that. Um, yeah, but again, probably people's interpretation of that sort of stuff. It's a good question, Robert Kiwi. So those are the best answers I've got for that. Can see why you were never on the mortar team with that man. Yeah, my maths be mathing, as the saying. Eh? Dan, hey Dan. Uh, Hey mate, how's your oh yeah, that's a conversation for those lads. Let them have that. Good to see. Yeah. What's this? Oh yeah, that's from Dan to Stokes Valley gonna Stokes Valley is what it is. Fair enough. The home of wait 5 minutes, it'll change. I'm not sure what that's Sup, Joshish? Good to see you pumping out these live streams. Hey, cheers, bro. Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff that's been coming through, and then this is a way for me to try to keep on top of a whole bunch of the other reaction requests that have come through. So, Santa Claus was SASR. Not sure. Talk, bro. Any funny stories about old Higgy? Yeah, boy. Higgy from 1RNZI. You're talking about, eh? That's one of his famous sayings. I can't do it in the same accent and tone that he used to. Higgy, probably not, because we weren't in the same company. Like, I just had that time with him on cycle in NZ, and we share the same birthday, same date. Um, and apart from us, him getting a white sponge cake because he's a tall white Anglo-Saxon colonizer Pākehā fella, and I got a brown chocolate sponge cake because I was the brown blinking darkie, and we had the same birthday. That was nice of the group and the directing staff to even know that it was our birthdays and to do something like that for us. Sponge cake with cream. He got the white sponge cake. I got the brown one. We shared the cake with the cohort on our cycle. Other than just his little quirks and his mannerisms and the way that he spoke and still speaks to this day, I caught up with him in Trentham a few months back now. I think he might be overseas at the moment. On well, I don't know where he is, but I think he's overseas. Well, I think I do know where he is overseas, but I won't mention it because I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, yeah, boy, just his mannerisms and how he would talk. Very happy-go-lucky. I don't really have any other funny stories about Higgy because yeah, we weren't in the same company and battalion. He was support company, I think. Been around for a while, but yeah, just a good man. Actually, I think one of his sons is in the UK military. I'm not sure if his son is in the Paras or in the Royal Marines, but he has got a son over there in the UK military. And yeah, but he's a good fellow. Obviously, you know what Higgy's like a bit with regard. You probably got more funny stories about him than I do, bro. What's this? Loafs. At roughly what age do you think is too late to start the path towards special forces? Roughly what age do you think? Well, I think too late. Is that what you said? Do you think it's too late? Probably in your 40s is probably pushing it. It's not impossible in saying that. Like, there are some outliers, right? There's some people that have been 38, 39. I don't know of anybody personally that's done it in their 40s, but when I did a reaction to one of the older SASR selection courses, I think one of the commentators or the person speaking doing the narration said that there was a person who did selection, might have been in his mid 40s, which is super impressive. Like, if you're doing selection in your early to mid 40s, even late 30s, like, that's awesome. Mid 30s, early to mid 30s is a good age, I think. Mid to late 20s is a good age. Blinking early 20s is a good age, I think, is fine, but that's not what you've asked. Too late, yeah, in the 40s, I reckon is, I wouldn't say too late. Like I said, there are outliers and there are people that, you know, if their body's in good nick and mentally they're blinking healthy and well and they know what they want to do and they're driven to go and do that, excuse me, they'd probably smash it. Heck, there might even be some outliers, excuse me, might even be some outliers in their blinking early 50s. I don't know. What I do know is that there's still guys in their 40s and into their 50s in the unit, but they've been there by that stage for blinking, dare I say, 15, 20, 30 plus years. yeah, they're not going on to selection at that age, if that makes sense. So yeah, hopefully that helps answer your question. That would be sort of my rough ballpark that I would say. 40 is pretty close, unless you're, like I said, one of those outliers. Anywhere in the 40s is, depending on what you've been doing and what your body's been put through during that time leading up to, and once you're at that stage, it's, yeah, probably going to be tough. Well, it's going to be tough anyway, but probably be tougher just because of the volume of work and suffering that is required, the weight that you're going to be constantly carrying and expecting to take, the distances that you're going to have to cover, the environment and the weather that you can't account for in terms of what it's going to be like. And yeah, just probably a lot of the physical stuff. Mentally, a person in their 40s might be okay, given the stuff that they've been through, but you have to be able to do both, on a selection, or holistically, if people want to go physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, blah blah blah, whatever. um, so yeah, hopefully that helps answer that question. Probably doesn't, but that's the best I've got. Yeah. Somebody's put 19. Where are we? Oh, bloody hell, there's heaps of questions, sorry. Etta, I'm way behind. Where are we? Vince, is that Vince ever since AU 19? Too late. 19 is only 6 months, 1 year after finishing core training. Can probably wait a few more years. Over Kiwi. Oh, did I just interpret the question wrong from Los? At roughly what age do you think is too late to start the path towards special forces? Too late to start the. Oh, sorry, yeah, I have misinterpreted it. Start the path. Too late to start the path. No, 19's not too late to start the path. You can start the path towards selection, or start the path towards special forces, blinking in your late 20s, early 30s. Sorry, I bloody just went off on a completely. I'm just having a look. Thank you to Vince ever since and Rubber Kiwi. I just read your two comments underneath. Um, to start the path. Bloody hell. Yeah. How old are you now, loafers? If this, whether it's for you or for somebody else, if you don't mind. But yeah, I don't. You could be 30 and be starting the path. I think Christian Craighead, blinking one man in. The Obi-Wan Nairobi fella, X22 SAS guy. I think he did selection at 35 or something like that, early 30s. So his path, he'd built up a whole bunch of experience. I think he was special reconnaissance group and then pathfinders, and done a whole bunch of things. He'd already done operational deployments as well. Did selection in his blinking 30s. So yeah, like 40s might still be a bit late in terms of starting the path. Probably maybe a bit late, but like I said, there could still be some outliers. But 19 is definitely not too late. It's very, dare I say, early. That's nice and early. As Rubber Kiwi said, can probably wait a few more years. Yeah, you could, depending on the mindset and the person that you are and what it is that you want to do. If you want to go in there, like I suppose, if I reflect and think of my journey, maybe my preparation started at 14, just from a mental perspective, because it certainly didn't start from a physical or technical or skill perspective when it came to soldiering at 14. But because those images were just embedded in my head, and they still are now, like a lot of those images, some of them are a bit dusty and can't see very clearly, but that's maybe when my journey started, or my prep. So yeah, I guess people will be different. Vince ever since. Willie Apiata was mid-20s when he got there. Yeah, probably. I'm not sure what year he got there, but he must have done selection, I would assume, in early 2000s, I'm guessing. When exactly in the 2000s, I'm not sure, because I was on cycle in 99. Or he may have done selection in 2000 or early 2000s. But yeah, plenty of people go there in their mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s. So yeah. Vince ever since, Rubber elaborate. No, that's for Rubber Kiwi. The real historical Santa Claus, Saint Nicholas, was a man after my own heart, giving out gifts and punching heretics. I'm still here. Really enjoyed it. Oh, thanks. Bloody hell. Sorry. I'm just still trying to catch up on the thing. You probably left by now, but thanks for still being here when you were here. Much appreciated. That's for Vince. He failed selection in 1996 at 24. Oh, did he? Was that Willie? I know that he had failed his first attempt, so he must have gone away. I think he was still TFA, and then must have gone back early 2000s by the time he went back again. Because I'm pretty sure I don't believe Willie was in when I was on cycle, or he could have been, but I don't know that he was. He might have been. Loafers, I've been trying to get in the ADF for about a year now. Oh, bro, you're not alone. My son, nearly 2 years. My son that's just started basic training here in NZ, been trying for nearly 2 years. Applications, everything done, medical done, physical done, aptitude done, waiting, Lincoln, waiting. Follow up after follow up, checking. He was still over there in Perth. Obviously, he's back here now. I've been back here now, and he's 3 weeks. I think this is the start of his 4th week of his 12-week basic training. So he applied early this year in January, and then started basic training this year. So everything, still had lots of hoops and stuff to go through. He had to basically do everything that he did for Australia here. So I don't know what the holdups are over there in Australia, but yeah, he was pretty disappointed. But it is what it is. He's in now and doing what he needs to do. Well, hopefully he's doing what he needs to do. Stay out of trouble and do what he's supposed to do. I've been trying to. So sorry to hear that, Los. I'm being dicked around because of my NZ citizenship, and the blokes don't seem to know how to submit the paperwork. Yeah, that's rubbish. So and that's interesting because 5 of our 6 children were born in Australia, and so straight away they were Australian citizenship. So he didn't have any issues. It wasn't citizenship related for him. So I don't know. They just blink and have taken their time and stuffed them around. Anyway, it is what it is. He's doing what he's doing now here. Maybe you might need to just come back and join the New Zealand Army and then look at changing over to the Australian one or something. I don't know, but that's what we said to our son when he was back here over the Christmas holidays just gone, and said, hey, well, just put in your application here. There's no guarantee you'll get into the New Zealand Army here, but at least, if you've got an application in, who knows? Australian Army might come back. And then if they say, yep, we've got a start date for your basic, then you just say to NZ, oh, sorry, I'm withdrawing. I'm not going to follow through. And then just move back to Australia. And then I said, and vice versa. If you get the nod first here in NZ, well, then, make a decision. Is that what you want to do? Or do you still want to wait for another year, which would take you up to blink in 3 years if you hang around, 2 to 3 years, or a little over 2 years, closer to 3 years. And all the while, I was harassing him saying, and all the while getting older and older. So yeah, anyway, everything worked out, and he's in the NZ Army now. Sig, all this talk of the various RAR battalions makes you sound like a drunk pirate. All this talk of the various RAR battalions makes you sound like a drunk RAR, 3 RAR, 4 RAR, 2 RAR. Yeah, I hear you. Talk, not took. Sorry, brain fart. No, that you got me good again. Made me read it. No medics taking anyone away at a high rate of knots is what I was getting at, like the guys from this morning's React. No medics taking anyone away at a high rate of knots. Oh, sorry, I can't think of the. I probably read the comment, but I can't think of which part. No medics taking anyone away at a high rate of knots is what I was getting at, like the guys from this morning's React. And a bottle of rum, because we're twinning. Yeah, I've done every step, but they're getting stuck with the security clearance. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. You're stuck with the security clearance. This is to Vince. Whenever I see someone with a username ending in AU, I always hear it like some Maori fella saying "ow." Oh is how we would say that with the AU, but "ow" is good enough. Like, what you talking about, ow? Usually security clearances take ages, bro. That's from talk to loafs. Keep fighting for it. You too, it's worth it. Even if you don't become SA superheroes, you'll learn things in uniform you'll never learn anywhere else. Lots of vets, a bitch. None would change it though. Yeah, in my experience as an Australian citizen, it took me around 3 to 4 months to finally attend every interview, but I got rejected right after my medical assessment due to speeding. Due to speeding? Due to speeding? Not due to using speed, eh? Yeah, I just been cheeky. Due to speeding. So what? Because of a criminal, like a speeding ticket? That's interesting. I remember my initial security clearance not taking very long, but that might be a false memory caused by the passing of time. Yeah, I don't. For me, I don't remember any of my security clearances taking long for me. But there's lots more added hoops I've noticed in just getting into the defence force these days, which weren't around when I went in. So that's probably why. I'm on an 18-month hold. 18-month hold. Holy heck! Oh, that sucks. Is there a period with a clean record required, or is that you done for good? Yeah, interesting question. I'm not sure. Oh, here we go. Yep, it's a year. Oh, there you go. Figure 12 target. Figure 12. That's the one. I think are the ones you're referring to, Joe. Yeah, those half body ones. Yeah, that sounds right. Figure 12. Don't quote me on that. It's been a while since had to recall that info. Yeah, figure 12. Then you had figure 12 C's and blinking. Yeah, I think you're right, bro. Thanks for that, Sig. But it starts once all your suspensions are lifted. So okay. In terms of that 12 months, I guess, or the year, 18 months to run and do push-ups, you'll be fine. Yeah, exactly. I got drenched last night. All the same. My issue is the clearance hasn't been started. If it drags much longer, it will cause my medical to expire. Yeah, it sucks, how that happens. I think that's part of what happened with our son. Um, he's the oldest son, but he's the last one into the army. He was by no means the first one. I was actually shocked. Out of all of our children, he's the last person I expected to join the army. I think I've shared that before. Told him, or when they were back in Australia, because he didn't have a job in Australia, and he was old enough to get a job, and we've taught all our children to, as soon as they're able to, they can get a job, start applying, get out there in the workforce, work for your money, blah blah blah. If you want a phone, if you want a video game, if you want a laptop or whatever, well, mum and dad's not buying it for you. But can go get a job, save your money, have a bit of an understanding of what that's like, and then and then save for it. We actually charge them rent as well, or charge them board when they started working. And so just those little lessons were good. Anyway, with regards to where was it? What we were talking about? 18 months out. Oh, not that. Clearance drags on. The medical. If it drags much longer, it will cause my medical to expire. I think that's partly what happened there. I'm pretty sure he had to do a medical twice, and then he had to get some specialists confirmations that he was good to go, because he's got a little bit of eczema and that sort of stuff. So yeah, the with that with our oldest boy, because he didn't have a job and he could have, and one of his best mates, well, we call him a nephew, uh, wanted to join the army and join the cadets. His parents told me that their son was in the cadets, and I was like, okay, yep. Then I told our son, I said, yeah, you're going to the cadets. And he's like, oh, he didn't want to do it. I said, well, you can get out of it if you get a job. Once you get a job, then you don't have to do cadets. I'd never seen a young man be so proactive and look to get a job. Started working on, asked for help with the CV, gave him some help with that. He was talking with some of his other friends that did have a job, and he ended up getting a job at McDonald's, local McDonald's just down the road. So, yeah, never seen a person move so quickly to try to get a job. He had a few failed interviews and attempts with a number of other applications, but it was good for him. It's all part of the process. Then he got a job, and he was like, yes, I don't have to go to this stupid army cadets anymore. So he's the last person I expected to want to join the army. And hello, here he is, week 3, start of week 4, I think it is, on his basic training right now. The blast waves from explosives, definitely an experience. Yeah. Sorry to hear that. I hope things get sorted. Yeah, definitely. It's all good. I get through the bureaucracy eventually. Yeah, hope so. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Loafers. Sig, I remember my first CS gas experience was told to recite my name, rank, serial number, trade. Got through that, then got asked when I joined. Well, that's good that you got through that. Like I said, I'm pretty sure as soon as I took it off, as soon as I took my mask off, I think I took instead of taking the breath, while I've still got the mask on, instead of going and then take it off and then go name, rank, serial number, date of birth and give all that information, I took it off and then went, blinking dopey. And then yeah, and then Joe, I'm pretty sure that's as much as I got out. I probably barely got my surname out. And then the instructors probably went, "Get this bloody retard out of here." And they just pushed me towards the door. And then that was me blinking, trying to scramble my way to get out of the kill house and get to fresh air. Good that you got through that though. So I wanted to say, because I love CS gas, Sant, I only got out be big before coughing up a stinging stream of snot. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's another memory. Yeah, everything was stinging. My face was stinging because we had been doing lots of PT too. Prior to that, we'd been doing lots of run throughs the house, so you're hot with all the gear on, which you would know, body armor, lots of sweat. Thinking you take that off, and then everything just started stinging. Eyeballs stinging, snot, nose hairs stinging. Blinking, my hair felt sore when I had lots more hair. Crack up. Talk, bro. He's got mean stories, especially during cycle. Real crack up fella. Good buzz as well. He always salutes us civvies. Oh, that's cool. That's good. Yeah, he can tell a story too. Like, he's a real funny character, eh? As you know, a real funny character, old Higgy, and a good man. So yeah, it's been good to catch up with him. Uh, Actually, when we caught up, he said, "Yeah, come out." Went out to Trentham, and he goes, "We'll head over to do a spin bike class at the NZ CIS, is that what it's called? The blinking fancy where the hurricanes and all that stuff go and train." So yeah, that was pretty cool going in there. It was like a sauna environment. It was almost like doing Bikram yoga, hot yoga or something. But we're on the spin bikes. That was cool. But yeah, he's a bloody good man. All right. Oh bloody hell! The chat just moved again. Oh, says, "You're joining the army. The bureaucracy has not yet begun to kick your backside." Yeah, hurry up and wait. So if you're waiting now, you'll get used to that and even more. Correction, got asked why I joined. Lots of brain farts today. Sorry, I should stop snorting beans. When were you in at SIG? Loafers, you best start learning to love the big green weenie that is military bureaucracy. Better get gay for gay. Better get gay for that SHIT. It's here to stay. I see what you did there. That helped appreciate the response. Oh, good. I don't know which part. It's probably to one of these other fellas. I don't know if it's to me. 95 to 03 started in the queer force, then moved to the army. Well, that's awesome, Sig. Good on you, man. Loafers, I'm 31, but I'll be 32 by the time I'm in the ADF. Oh, well. Okay, cool. Yeah. So you've got time. I mean, if you're prepping to join and go SF path, like, prep now. You've clearly got a fair amount of life experience. It's probably just the soldiering aspects and pieces that you're needing, or that you will get introduced to, a basic and core training, and then life in the military. So all going well. Is it you that's the 18 months? So what's that, 32? Say 34. Let's just say 34. And then you do another couple of years, 36, 37, 2, 3 years, doing selection by 37, 38. Some people might consider that old, but if you're in good nick and you've been looking after yourself and your body's not too bad, I know men that have done it in their mid and late 30s. So yeah, there's time if that's what you're thinking. I figure a few years to get the experience. I wouldn't be able to do selection until mid to late 30s. Yeah, you would probably be mid to late 30s. Sorry, I just read the rest of your blinking thing now. That's what happens if you're new here. I do get sidetracked. I'll just read part of somebody's comment and then I start yapping away, and then I come back and read the rest and then see that you've already said what I was talking about. SIG then went private sector for a bit. I foolishly thought Afghan would last as long as it would last as long as it did, or I might have stayed in. Instead, chased the fun times in Iraq. Gotcha. Maybe you meant wouldn't last as long as it did. Sorry, I said Willie Apiata earlier. I meant Willie Apiata VC. Sorry. Yeah, all good. All good. I make that mistake too sometimes. Wouldn't last as long as it did. Sheesh, still farting away. Pretty crazy. Loafs in NZ. NZSIS do the clearances. Okay. NZDF is usually the sponsoring organization. Unsure if ADF do it the same way. Ah, interesting. Okay. Interrogative. What years were you at 1RNZR again, Joe? So got there 97 and left in 2000. So got to battalion, I want to say February 97, did selection in 98, and then went back there, and then went on cycle in 99, and then went back to battalion until I went to Australia in 2000. I don't think we crossed paths, but you might have known a guy named Mark Fuller, great boxer. Mark Fuller. Nah, I don't remember. I don't remember the name. Mark Fuller. Nah, I can't. Maybe if I saw a picture of him, but that name doesn't sound any bell. Doesn't ring any bells. Sound any bells? Doesn't ring any bells. Take your word for it. Yeah, there were a few fellas fairly handy with their fists in battalion. Then you met Willie VC. Was he as humble in real life? Sorry, I had to do a barbecue, so missed a bit. Do you mean me, Dan? Or are you talking to Rubber Kiwi or somebody else? Yeah, I've had a few interactions with Willie. He's definitely as humble as how he comes across in the Reluctant Hero in real life, to me anyway. Like I never knew him before, hand. And the first time I'd heard about him, I was in Iraq doing the private security guys with some of the Kiwi lads that were there. And one of the lads that was a senior operator in the regiment at the time, the New Zealand regiment, what was doing the private security over there, and the team that I was in, brought back the Reluctant Hero DVD. And they all said, the guys that were there, they're like, how he is on the DVD or in the documentary is, they all described him as that's just how he is in person. That's who he is in real life. What you see is what you get in that documentary. How he speaks, the softly spoken manner, the humility that comes through when he's speaking. That's just the man. And yeah, so I've definitely experienced that. I can attest to that from a personal experience, having had the privilege to have some interactions with Willie out on his property with his horses, following him around, when he gave me a buzz and said, hey, do you want to come on this Poppy Day prior to Anzac Day? And then yeah, there's some footage and stuff of me going out there and doing that, with him, being the cameraman really, and just seeing how he was interacting with the community and that sort of stuff. Sig did basic in 2000, blew my knee out. Yeah, on BFT 3 days before passing out. Should come right any day now. Yeah, spewing, eh? So cheers, Rubber Q, for sharing that. Dan Kids search epic Willie up here to VC Anzac Day. Joe spent the day with him. Like, yeah. So that was 1 day spent with him. Lucky enough to spend some other moments and times with him, and then some chats over the phone and stuff as well. Yeah, he's a good dude. I have messaged him recently, when I was going to be heading over to do the Kokoda trail with the Pillars for Pilgrims were sponsoring me to go over and do that. They just did a trek recently with oh bloody hell, what's his name? My bad. I got to search it up now. Travis, Instagram, Travis. Kokoda trek. No, I'm not going until I've found him. What's the bloody surname? Travis Hokart. Travis Hokart. So yeah, the Kokoda trail stuff that he does, KokodaCrossing.com. So anybody interested in what Travis Hokart does, former, I think, federal police, federal police, TRG, one of those or both of those, runs the www.KokodaCrossing.com. Check him out. Yeah, good dude. Where was I? How did that come about? Oh yeah, because I messaged Willie and asked him if he wanted to come. So they wanted somebody from, if there was anybody from NZSAS that might have been interested, former or current, but probably more so former. So I thought of Willie straight away. Also reached out to Greg Pup Johnson. They needed to hear back pretty quick. So Willie did get back to me, said that he couldn't. He had some stuff on and kids and all that sort of stuff with the family. So that was all good. And then I heard back from the guys in Australia, so from Slotty and them from Pillars for Pilgrim, Aussie lads, and they said they've already filled that other position, not with a Kiwi guy, but another Australian, which was fine. It wasn't they didn't have it mandatory that they wanted somebody from the NZ unit. They were just looking to fill it sooner rather than later. And so once I got that, then I had to let Greg know, Pup know, and just say, hey, sorry, bro, they've already filled the position. And then not long after that, because I think we had a pretty significant event. Oh yeah, well, we had our nephew's wedding over in Perth, and it clashed with the timing of when the trip and the travel was going to be. So I think they were leaving on the 16th or 17th, something like that, to head over to PNG, and we were going to be in Perth, Western Australia, and we weren't coming back until the 20. I think we got back on the 21st or 22nd. So it was unfortunate timing for me. Yeah, so disappointing to miss out on that. Like, shout out Pillars for Pilgrims in terms of, and Slotty and the crew that had put me up, and Travis and Kokoda Crossing crew with the tours and stuff that they do. So, yep, unlucky for me, I missed out, but it is what it is. Had a great time at our nephew's wedding over there in Perth. Dun, 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 dun. I know I saw that, and he was lucky to spend time with. Thanks, Dan. Correct up. If it doesn't come right, your issue replacement knee should be available at supplies in 2 to 3 decades. So long as you filled out the paperwork in 2000 when you injured it. Yeah, that's a good one, Sig, for sure. Police be tripping. What are the pack weights for selection? 35 kilos. Yeah, oh, was it 30 kilos plus your webbing and stuff probably then equates to 35 kilos. Oh, actually, I thought the packs were 35 kilos. I'm going to say the pack weight was 35 kilos. That's what I recall it being for NZ and Australia. So then in addition to that, you got a few extra kilos with your webbing and weapon. Actually, maybe it's pack and webbing combined, 35 kilos. So that's what you're carrying, whatever that is in pounds. Your weapons in a couple of kilos. Well, I think they're about 4 kilos these days in terms of what I've heard. So yeah, that's the pack weight. Oh, did this just skip again? My apologies. Yeah, so hopefully that answers that. Please be tripping. Nicholas Miles, from what I've been told, the delay in ADF acceptance is due to a lack of direction in what capacity we want to fill our positions. In short, do we want more infantry or need more trade/technical jobs? Interesting. Okay. Robert Kiwi, I was working as cadre on an RNZAF recruit course, and the troops were practicing their passing out parade on the last week. I called out, stand at ease, and one girl's bayonet came off. Crack up. Well, at least it didn't stab anybody. Hopefully not. Mum was the same. If you're not in school, you're paying your own way. Yeah. I think that's, the things that we learn from our parents. Oh, I feel like it's gone well towards sort of trying to help our children have a better understanding of that stuff. Sig Herstire and landed blade first in her best friend's dress. Oh, bloody hell. There I was just, see, there I go. I just start rattling on without having read the rest. Dress shoes, a pool of blood rising up from the polished leather. Wow. Unlucky. She didn't get to pass out with the rest, just stood off the side of the parade ground, her foot in a bandage or cast, looking rather dejected. Oh, poor girl. The next passing out parade practice after the bayonet incident, when they formed up, I wrapped a bunch of duct tape around her bayonet and rifle barrel to make sure it was secured. Referring to the chick whose bayonet fell off her rifle, not the girl whose foot the bayonet landed in, to be clear. Referring to the chick whose bayonet fell off her rifle, not the girl. Yeah. So the girl who had the bayonet land in her foot was standing off to the side, is what you're talking about. And the girl whose bayonet fell off, you duct tape that. Referring to the chick whose bayonet fell off her rifle. Oh, not the girl whose foot the bayonet it stood off the side of the program. Okay, my spelling today. All right, so the person who caused the injury is the one that stood off to the side of the program. She didn't get to march out. Oh, interesting. Okay. I would have thought the person with the injured foot might have been unable to march as well as what she would have, but I suppose you can still get by with a limp, I suppose. Not that I've ever had a bayonet land in my foot, thankfully. Dun, dun, dun. What's this? Rubber Kiwi. Today, every day. Charlie, 35 kilos, basically 77 pounds. Okay. Thank you, Charlie29. Cheers, everybody, joining the chat. Rubber Kiwi Cheeky, always very perspicacious of you. Sig Spear is just, he likes to show off with his, I'm being cheeky here, likes to show off with all his reading and his edumacation that he has and throwing big words in. Succinct was the other word for the day, and one of the comments that he sent me was the word of the day to be, what, concise, brief, concise, I think. I can't remember the rest of what you said, but good enough. What's this? Laugh or cry, that's the only real choice we get. Yeah, so, well, that's come up to 3 hours now. That's the live stream that I was intended to do. Well, I wasn't intending to go 3 hours, but anyway, it is what it is. I was intending to just do the reflection of what I've done in regards to the Australian lead up, during, and post, the Australian essay selection and cycle. Yeah, and that's my take. So badging was great. As I said, just counted out the numbers there. 18 of us got badged in the end. Majority, I want to say majority of us went to one squadron. Only a handful went to, and I think a handful got split up between 2 and 3 squadron. And yeah, that was pretty good result from 4 RER. 11 went, 10 passed. 8 of us ended up getting through from 4, and then there was a mix from other battalions. 6 RER had a good representation, so did 3 RER. I can't say for sure about 2 and 1 RAR. 1 RA, 2 RA. Yeah, and that's that. Dun, dun, dun. What's this? We the people, thank you for the live. Yeah. Hey, we the people, your one had the most votes on the poll, on the post that I put up. It was about 40% was the vote for we the people as the political party. So that means you would need to be the prime minister. It's this, no, the person with the injured foot was stood on the side of the parade ground. Oh, okay. So that I did get that right. I put the duct tape around the rifle of the girl whose bayonet fell off, who passed out normally. Yep, gotcha. Always a great listen. Cheers, Joe. Yeah, well, thank you for that. Very kind. Thank you very much, anybody that stopped by here, for your time, support, the questions. Apologies, it took me a while before I got to your questions, but I tried to get to them. Dan for PM, yeah, that's right. So Charlie 29, Sig, Rubber Kiwi, Talk, those others, Loafers, and Vince, and Police Be Trippin', and Blanca, and whoever else was on here that I missed out. Nicholas Miles, thank you, Nick. My apologies as well. Just scrolling back up now to have a look. Vince. Oh, no, I think I said Vince. Vince ever since. Yeah, thank you all very much. Appreciate you stopping by. Look after yourselves. I will be on a live. I accept. Well done, Dan. I'll be on a live tomorrow night. Whole bunch of, it's probably going to be similar to Monday night's one. Whole bunch of different little snippets and stuff. Me, we solving all of the problems in relation to what we see in those clips and posts, us giving our educated opinions and solving, dare I say, not just New Zealand's problems, but the world's problems. Forming our own World Economic Forum right here at Go Always a Little Further on Monday, Wednesday night lives, and then when I feel like chucking on extra lives, doing some more. Shout out Rubber Kiwi. I think Rubber Kiwi said at this rate, you should just live stream every day. I was like, yeah, might as well be the Joe Truman show. And just have that live stream all day. It'd be a fairly boring live stream, I would imagine. But here we go. A palace coup already. Look at that. Look after yourselves, people. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care, and thank yous all once again. Keats, peeps. Oh, yeah, up the wires, eh? They had a good win against the Broncos. We'll talk about that tomorrow, and the ABs and everything else. Bye, bros. Catch you next one. Yep, likewise. Heart. I'll send lots of hearts there. There we go, because there's, hundreds. Appreciate you all. Look forward to it. Take it easy, guys. Have a good one. All right, end stream. Boom.